4:30?
It is 4:30.
Wow.
All right, we'll call to order the City of Dutcher Hot Springs regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as a successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board. Do we ever get an answer on why we're still the former Redevelopment Agency Board? We should look into that. I think we've sold everything, so I don't think we have any more
I think
action.
we may have some stuff on the books yet. I'm not sure, but we could definitely check with.
Oh, yeah, just check. I asked a question a while back, and we were looking into it, but
You've got to memorize so much now that it'll just come out automatically.
30 years?
30 years.
This is the meeting for Tuesday, November 7th, 2023, our 4:30 p.m. closed session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts,
Present.
Councilmember Gardner,
Present.
Councilmember Pai,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Nunez,
Here.
and Mayor Menace.
Present. This will be public comments this time. We have nobody in the audience, and I'm assuming we have no public comment cards turned in.
Correct.
Thank you. We're going to go to the announcement of closed session. Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, we have 4 items on for closed session. Number 1 is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Paragraph 1 is subdivision D of section 54956.9. The case is Wealthy Ventures versus City of Desert Hot Springs, Riverside, case number CVPS 4926. Number 2 is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision D of section 54956.9. There's 1 potential case. 3 is conference with real property negotiators pursuant to government code section 54956.8. The property is 13700 Palm Drive and 17825 Indian Canyon Avenue. Palm Drive's in City of Desert Hot Springs. Indian Canyon Avenue is City of Palm Springs. Agency negotiator is the city manager and myself. Negotiating parties are the city manager and myself. Under negotiation are price and terms. Number 4 is public employee complaints, government code section 54957.
All right, I have nothing else on the agenda, but to hear those items, we'll go into closed session for that. All right, good evening, everybody. We are coming back to order from our closed session, and we're going to move into presentations. This is our 5:30 presentation period time. And our first presentation tonight is the CV200 presentation, and this will be given by the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. We have the Executive Director, Tom Kirk, here, who will open it up.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Chairman of CVAG, Mr. Chairman of the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, and the rest of the council. Frank, great seeing you again. Doria, rest of the staff. Always enjoy working with all of you. So welcome aboard, Frank. Can you fix the roads here, though? With my help, of course. Before we talk about CV Housing First, speaking of roads, all of you on the council have approached me at times about roads in the Coachella Valley and high priority roads, particularly in Desert Hot Springs, and a high priority road in fact, 2 in the city of Palm Springs. One of those is Indian Canyon. It always suffers flood and sand problems. I've got some good news to report that we're going to send a little press release on about tomorrow, and that is we applied for some money from the state of California, and we are being recommended for $50 million from the state of California to fix Indian Canyon, one of only 2 awards in the entire state at that maximum funding level. And we were one of 2 top-ranked awards in the entire state of California. And it makes me difficult going around saying we're not getting our fair share. We're getting 1/5 of all the money available in the state of California for this kind of program. So it's awesome. Congratulations, Chairman, CVAG Chair, and CVAG Transportation Chair, and all the good work that this city, Palm Springs, and the rest of the Coachella Valley put into that. Now, and we'll hear more about that, I think, maybe at the State of the City next week, right? On to Housing First. CV Housing First, this is about homelessness, a pressing issue throughout our country, and particularly in California, Desert Hot Springs included. I just got to get a little bit of background because I know some of the audience may not be aware about this thing called CVAG and how we got into this business. CVAG is a regional agency, includes all the cities in the Coachella Valley, the county, 3 tribes, and the city of Blythe. And we've been in the homeless business for 12, 13, 15 years, I guess. And part of the reason we've been in this business is in the city of Indio at the time, they had all of the services in the city of Indio. The council there was upset that all the services were there and a lot of the homeless population was there. And so we worked with the county, CVAG did, and cited something called Roy's. Roy's was named after our late supervisor. And at Roy's, we had over 100 beds and had a homeless shelter in North Palm Springs, off, curiously enough, Indian Avenue. And for about 10 years, we operated Roy's. We had a nonprofit that operated, Jewish Family Services. They did a fine job for us. And we helped thousands of people. Councilmember Pai, but did we help them? Some we certainly did. We did help thousands, but what we found in the shelter model is we were helping them temporarily. And we were helping, frankly, the easy ones. We weren't helping the chronically homeless, the people that are on the street every day, the people that may have a felony, may have drug problems, may have mental abuse problems. We weren't letting them into the shelter. And frankly, most of them didn't want to go to a shelter because they couldn't take their shopping cart, they couldn't take their partner, they were concerned about what might happen. And the shelter was concerned about what might happen if they were admitted. So we helped a lot of people. Our success rate was about 5% on helping an easy clientele go from shelter to permanent housing. And we're spending about a third of our money moving them. Councilmember Betts, you've been at this a long time, you remember. We didn't have a Sunline route down Indian. So we were moving them down from north of the freeway into services in Cathedral City and Palm Springs, cost us a lot of money. And in 2017, our nonprofit said, yeah, this isn't for us anymore. And we said, yeah, I don't think it's for us either. And the county turned that facility into a long-term mental care facility. We closed the door on Roy's, opened the door to a Housing First program. And the reason it's called Housing First is instead of trying to fix somebody's problems out on the street, we say, come into housing and we'll help you there. And the kind of housing we propose, Mr. Gardner, is we say if you've been on the street for 3 or 4 years as a chronically homeless person, we say, we'll give you a deal you can't actually refuse. We're going to give you an apartment. We're not going to put you in a shelter. You may not even have to have roommates. A apartment on your own, TV clicker, refrigerator, you get your own shower. We give you that apartment for 90 days, and during that 90 days, we do work with you. But after 90 days, if you're not ready to go into permanent housing, we kick you out. If you are ready to go, we help find a permanent place for you. These units are throughout the Coachella Valley, and one of the things I would expect to hear from you is, well, is all these apartments in Desert Hot Springs. 4 of our 22 beds are in Desert Hot Springs, a reasonable share, and many of the beds are throughout the Coachella Valley. We hired a nonprofit. We got some funding from Desert Healthcare District. We get funding from every city in the Coachella Valley to the tune of $100,000 per year. And when folks are in these CSH units, these apartments, we help them with their issues, whether it's drug abuse or mental health, or help them with, in fact, your police department and other police departments to address the issues they've had with those enforcement agencies. So, CVAG's been running this. We've been focused on the chronically homeless. And Ivan Tenorio's here, and he's going to describe 2 or 3 cases for you very briefly. What Ivan does every year with his team is they sit down with your police department. They sit down with your chief or who he assigns, and we develop a list of 200 people every year in the Coachella Valley that is our target list of chronically homeless. Based on the chiefs and your code enforcement officers, Dory, I think you participated in the last conversation, right? You know your community. If they've been on the street, why are they on the street year after year? Well, we're going to go up to them and offer them an apartment. And we work with them over and over. They might say no at first, but you'll hear a couple cases where they eventually say yes. And CVAG is not a charity. So what Councilmember Pai has learned from my presentations at CVAG Homeless Committee meetings is we're not here to tell you that it's the best thing in the world. It's expensive, by the way. But it's also expensive to have these folks on the street. We know it affects our emergency rooms. We know it affects your police department. We certainly know it affects your code enforcement. And it certainly is a huge issue for your commercial districts. So we have two ways of getting them off the street. Sometimes we get lucky, and that's called rapid resolution. They might just need $500 to fix a car that they've been sleeping in. We'll do that, and they'll work with them to get to a location, sometimes out of the Coachella Valley. Go home, go back somewhere. That does happen. More often than not, it's not that easy. It's about crisis stabilization. And I pointed out that our success rate at our previous model, the shelter was about 6%. Under this program, with more challenging clients, our success rate's 50%. I never thought I'd be in a program where I was excited about a 50% success rate, but it's awesome. It is absolutely awesome what we're doing with the most challenging clients that your police department gives us. And we'll talk more about the success here in the city of Desert Hot Springs. We have an outreach vehicle, and how are we doing? In our first year of the program, it's pretty awesome. We helped 75 of our 200 list. Last year, 54, and I'll update you on 2023 in a minute. And I'm going to ask Ivan to tell you 3 stories, 2 successes, and 1 not a success. And I'll remind us all, we track our success stories to make sure they stay in housing, and we report when they don't. Because again, we're providing a service to the cities and the county, not a charity. Ivan, come on up.
Well, that was a really good talking. So our first case here is Mr. Moore. I actually met Mr. Moore a few years ago when I actually used to work for Path to Life when the contract was under Path to Life. I worked with them for a little while right at the start of the pandemic. But you know, as most of our folks, they move along. You know, sometimes lack of communication is there. I actually didn't see him for quite some time, and it wasn't until 2022 that I got reached out by one of the officers. He said, "Hey, I have this gentleman. He's staying behind I think it was a tire shop." And he says, "Hey, he's here. I have a gentleman here with a domestic partner, and we don't really know what to do." I said, "Can you come out and take a look at the situation?" Sure enough, I go, and it was a gentleman that I met back in 2020. And as Tom mentioned, our purpose is to get these folks and bring them back to our program immediately. And there was some hesitancy because he had a partner who, was a bit eerie of like what we were offering. Like, oh, who's going to offer to come to our program? And that instantly. Eventually, he did make it to our program. And as Tom mentioned, we worked with them anywhere between, up to 90 days. And it was a challenge. It wasn't easy. At the time, Mr. Moore was dealing with a lot of issues in his homelessness, and we were kind of there to take a lot of that. And so a lot of our clients that come to our program, they get everything that they need as far as from wraparound services. They get behavioral health services. We have a clinician that we work with. And so after a little over 90 days, we ended up getting him in a voucher through the county. He was housed earlier this year at the start of the year, and he lives here in Desert Hot Springs now. And he's in that exact same apartment still to this day. This is Mrs. Newton. I met her sometime in 2021 when I was still doing the street outreach. And I met her, and she was living in her car. And it just so happened that she was just one of our CV200 at the time. And, same deal, worked with her, connected with her, offered her, and learned a little bit more about her situation. And she was a very difficult case. She actually came through our program at least 2 to 3 times. Some of our folks that we work with, as you can imagine, have challenges. Sometimes they don't want to follow the rules. And that's kind of a big thing in our program. You kind of have to go through the program. So she actually, fell out of our program a couple times and then came back again. And we were actually able to, I think at the tail end of, somewhere in 2022, we're able to get her a voucher again through the county, and we were to house her, and she lives here in Desert Hot Springs, and she's still housed to this day. This last one is, as Tom mentioned earlier, we do have unsuccessful cases that do turn up. This individual was on our CV 200. A name was given to us last year for this year. And this individual has been here in the city for quite some time, and another difficult case. And unfortunately, he was exited out of our program because she ended up getting arrested. There were some circumstances that she kind of had in the background, and unfortunately, she had to exit our program. But we're willing to work with her when she does come out of her arrest, and we're willing to continue the good work that we do. Thank you.
So one of the sensitivities I know in any community, and certainly in your community, and I've heard it for 12 years, is, other agencies bringing people that are homeless somewhere here. I suspect it happens every once in a while. And our homeless population, some of them come from somewhere else. But I've got to admit something to you. In 2023, we are up to 46 people permanently housed so far. We look like we're on pace for a 2022 year again, not as much as I would like, but still a worthwhile program that's doing great things. And of that, over 10% of the people we permanently housed, we sent to the city of Riverside, because those were the only beds that were available, only apartments for permanent housing. So it does happen in both directions. We're not intentional about it. If there are permanent houses in the Coachella Valley, that's certainly our preference. It's a lot easier for us, but sometimes it is a county-wide program, at least the voucher part of it. And these vouchers are scarce. And these vouchers are a nationwide program that doesn't pay for the total cost of rental housing. And so one of the things that we're working with CVAG's Homeless Committee on is there some way to provide incentive to the landlord to take a voucher that's below what he or she or they could otherwise get? So that's one of the challenges ahead for us. And it ties into unit availability. Please build more housing. And we're trying to repeat that mantra throughout the Coachella Valley. With that, I'd be happy to try to address any questions or comments you might have. And I do thank you for your continued support of the program, along with each city and the Desert Healthcare District and the county in the Coachella Valley.
Thank you for the presentation. I'll start with Ms. Pye. She represents us on the Homelessness Committee through CVAG. Anything to add or any questions? Nope. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem? Mr. Gardner? Mr. Betts?
Thanks for your efforts. We almost got away. I just wanted to thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, and I look forward to having you all at a groundbreaking on Indian and many other streets in Desert Hot Springs as soon as possible.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you all.
Ivan. Next, we're going to move to a presentation of our new fire chief. So I'm going to ask our current fire chief, Mike Beverland, to come up to the podium. We have been represented by CAL FIRE for as long as I can remember, and probably before I was born. They are a contractor for fire services here in the city of Desert Hot Springs. For many years, the battalion chief was responsible to interact with the cities, and that person's in charge of multiple stations and running the fires all the time. And over time, last probably 6 or 7, 8 years, they've put that on the division chief, which is a step up. And Mike, first of all, you've represented us in our city very well, and I appreciate everything you've done for us. But you do have an announcement today, as your role is going to change.
Yes, Mayor, Council, thank you. So I just wanted to give a little background on kind of why this is happening, and basically it's just the growth in the valley. We've been running the fire department in the desert with 2 division chiefs for a very long time, and we're adding stations all over the place. There's just not enough of us to do the work that the cities need us to do. So our management team came up with a plan and added a division chief into the Coachella Valley. And what that did is kind of reassigned both Chief White and my assignments, realigned us a little bit. So the only way that we could make it work with the different city council meetings was for me to exit and for Chief White to come in. So I just really value the time that I had here. I've made numerous very excellent relationships with staff, and I'm sure that professionally we'll be talking a lot, but personally I've made some friendships here that'll probably last a lifetime. And lastly, I'd just like to say that under your direction over the time that I've been here, I've seen so many wonderful things, staff handling these crazy emergencies that have come up over the years, and just a really excellent place to work, and I couldn't be prouder to have been part of that for the last couple of years. So thank you all for your relationships. I really, really appreciate all your time and effort with me, teaching me how to do this job. What I'll say about my replacement, his name is Brian White. We've been partners for the last 5 years. We were both battalion chiefs in the Cove communities, and we promoted on the same day. I took the western half of the desert. He took the eastern half of the desert. So he's been, we've been riding next to each other for the last 5 years, just really, really trying to make improvements to the fire department in the desert. It's been exciting to see some of the progress that we've been able to make, and we're really looking forward to seeing what Desert Hot Springs looks like, moving forward with all the projects that we have going on. So Chief White's got about 22 years of service with CAL FIRE. The majority of that has been in the desert. He even, for a short time when he was a young firefighter, worked out of 37 quite a few years ago. He's worked in the cities of Moreno Valley, Palm Desert, Indian Wells, and Rancho Mirage, and then most recently he's been the fire chief for the city of Indio, Coachella, and La Quinta. Now, with our realignment, he will be the fire chief of Desert Hot Springs and Indio. So with that, I'd like to introduce my partner, Chief Brian White.
Thanks, Parker. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, and staff. It's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. I know that change is oftentimes scary, but this really is the right step for right-sizing our fire department and doing the city's work. There's so much growth and there's so many things that are happening within the fire service that between the two of us, we just couldn't keep up with the amount of work and the amount of things that needed our attention and our hands involved in it. So again, I'm just honored to be here. Desert Hot Springs is a great city. I've been working with my partner. Our offices are right next to each other. So a lot of the projects and a lot of your successes as a city, we've been working on together and bouncing ideas off in the hallway. So while it's new for me and I'm a new face, I'm very familiar with the projects, with the growth, and just the outstanding things that are happening here in the city of Desert Hot Springs. And it's a great honor and a privilege to be here with you tonight. And I look forward to getting up to speed with the team and getting integrated and getting to work. So thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Welcome. We're excited. Again, CAL FIRE has been a great partner with the city of Desert Hot Springs, and I think there's a long relationship that will continue. And you both have been very professional. And Chief Beverland, you're not going very, very far, but we're excited to have you, Chief White.
Thank you. And he's always available. Again, our offices are literally right next to each other. So,
question?
Yeah, Chief, a small city like ours has been very fortunate to have the caliber of service that you provided to us. It's been excellent and really appreciate that. And Chief White, it's great to have you on board. We're really happy to have you and continuing a long tradition of helping our city.
Thank you very much, sir. Happy to be here.
Anyone else?
To you, I want to say thank you for saving my life. You won't have to do it.
I just want to say welcome. I've never seen the chief of police walk in here so nervous, all the firemen in here. No, but seriously, I don't know if he told you that when he first started, he had to bring a bottle of tequila for the council, so I'm hoping.
As long as it's under $50, we don't have to report it.
Yeah, all right.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to adjourn the meeting to 6 o'clock. It's about 9 minutes away. We'll adjourn for now. Good evening, everybody. I think we might have some people in the foyer there. We might need to close that door. We're going to move forward with opening the meeting. This is the City of Desert Hot Springs regular meeting of the City Council, and the City Council serving as the successor agency to the former Redevelopment Agency Board for Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. This is our 6 p.m. regular session. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Betts,
Present.
Councilmember Gardner,
Present.
Councilmember Pai,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Nunez,
Here.
and Mayor Mattis.
Present. So tonight, we're going to combine our invocation. We're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to actually have a national anthem tonight in honor of Veterans Day coming up. Ms. Pai, our council member, who, she's not singing. I thought she got nervous. She helps me put the invocations together with our local pastors and inspirational speakers. And she asked a question the other day, can we sing the national anthem? And I said, why not? It's going to be Veterans Day. It's kind of fitting. And so we have a special guest today. Cannabis is going to sing the national anthem for us. So if you all please rise.
Oh, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm not a singer, but I hear it's a very hard song to really sing, and you did it beautifully. Thank you. We're going to move to the City Attorney's report on closed session. Madam City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We do have reportable action on item number 3, which is the property negotiation at 13700 Palm Drive and 17825 Indian Avenue. The City Council voted 4-1. The nay was Councilmember Betts to accept the donation of the parcels contingent upon execution of quitclaim deeds by the Humane Society. The Humane Society will be donating those parcels to the city. Again, so it's contingent upon the execution of the quitclaim deeds and also the acquisition of title insurance. With that, also the Humane Society also entered into, and the city entered into a donation agreement whereby the fixtures and the equipment located at the 2 sites will be also donated to the city. With that, we will make sure that all the documents are made available for the public as soon as possible, including the documents that I just mentioned. And that concludes my reportable action.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to approving the agenda. During this process, we do approve the consent calendar. And then, first of all, I'm going to let Mr., well, no, I'm not going to do that first on your recusals because I think we're going to have to discuss something. So I do want to notify the public that there's 2 items on our agenda tonight. On the consent calendar, I want to read this item for you because I do have a speaker card for it, so I'll be calling that speaker up in a minute. Second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending vacation rental regulations, and that's item number 18. We do have a similar item that's on our public hearings, which is item number 7, which is the appeal fee related to vacation rental permits. During the public hearing, we don't want to mix the two issues. This is specific to the appeal fees. So if you're here to speak on the second reading, you would need to do that now during the consent calendar approval. We ask for public comments on any consent calendar items. There's 15, 16, 17, and 18. And you can make those comments now. I do have a speaker card. You're not mandated to fill out a speaker card for that, but Mary Kate Stover on item number 18.
Hi there. I want to thank you guys all for your hard work on this short-term vacation rental ordinance. There's much in there that looks really good. There's a couple of things that I think that the community has, expressed an interest in seeing be strengthened. One, I would encourage you not to increase the occupancy. 2, I would encourage you not to change the noise regulations. 3, I would remove the grandfather clause that allows properties to be renewed from Chapter 544055B and 544060A3. Starting with notwithstanding, and that whole final sentence I'd remove. 4, I would address complaints directly and quickly. Chapter 544070M complaints should read, in the event the city gets a complaint, code enforcement will investigate within half an hour on site. And 5, the language should be to revoke all permits held by hosts with 2 violations of the rules or 1 violation of the law. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. I failed to say there was an item 19 also, which is the payment registrations on the consent calendar. You can speak on that item too. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak on the second reading of the ordinance itself, not the fees? The fees will come at the public hearing. Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Hi, Kent Anderson.
I can't press the button there. Thanks.
Hi, Kent Anderson. I just wanted to say I am in support of this second reading. I think we need to get it in place as soon as possible because there's 3 more homes being completed behind me that are all gearing up to be STVRs. And I already have one behind me. So I would really like to see that 500-foot radius put into effect so that we can stop some of these from taking over our neighborhood completely. Also, I think the enforcement needs to be stepped up. As we all know about the incident on Halloween night, it just points out that increasing the occupancy is not a good idea, and we need to have people there to monitor this. The next door neighbor, who is a STVR at that house, he knew what was going on. So how does the owner of that unit not know? But definitely we need to get something going immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comments on any? Yes, sir. Please feel free to come forth. And anyone else that would like to speak, just you can make your way towards the front.
Later too, but this is,
Yeah,
I guess,
absolutely.
is about this.
Yeah.
Do I press this button?
It's already on.
I've been made aware, my name is Eric Handel. I'm the owner of The Getaway, which is a collection of vacation rentals on Club Circle Drive. I've been made aware of a rule under the City Council's consideration that would prevent 2 short-term rentals existing within 500 feet radius of each other. If I understand correctly, as long as I maintain my vacation rental permits, which are 4 vacation rentals in 1 building, I would be grandfathered in, and this rule would not apply to my business. But if for some reason, unexpected reason, my permits expire, I would not be able to renew them. So I'm asking the mayor and the city council to establish a common sense review for special consideration and exceptions to this rule going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I think there was, ma'am, you were coming up? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. I just, I echo the sentiments of a few of the people who spoke in saying that I think it's very important that we don't increase the occupancy limits. I think the shooting on Halloween is probably the best example we could get of why that's the case. Again, I'd also agree with Mary Kate that the noise regulations should not be changed as well. I think that was one of the main reasons this entire topic even was brought before you, is because our neighbors were dealing with noise at all hours of the night, every weekend. So I agree with those. And then I absolutely think code enforcement needs to be improved, at least their speed at which they are reviewing complaints. Showing up several hours after the complaint's been made isn't super helpful, especially if the party has then dispersed, but the neighbors were still dealing with that issue for that entire time. So echoing the same points that my neighbors made. And also revoking all permits held by hosts with 2 violations of rules or 1 violation of the law. I mean, I think that's common sense as well. We don't want to just keep encouraging this scary behavior and in our neighborhoods. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Deborah Haas. I'm an Avenida Altaloma short-term rental owner, and I was here last time. I do want to bring up the issue, and I understand the against not raising the amount of people. However, if you look at, for instance, like I have a 3-bedroom, house, I'm not able to then even put a small, like, loft bed in that 2nd bedroom so that somebody can bring their children, right? So, I mean, you're basically going to minimize it to 2 people per room, which really, you really want families here, am I right? So, you don't want parties, you want families. So that would actually deplete the purpose of that. Also, in regards to the comments about the shooting, it's horrible and awful. When I was looking at properties and considered every area, Indio, Palm Springs, somebody turned me on to Desert Hot Springs. And I came here and I thought, I don't know. I've not heard good things about this place. I'm skeptical, but my real estate agent said it's up and coming and it's a great place and you're going to love it and your dad and his wife are going to love to stay here on vacation. And I'm like, okay, I'll look at a place. But I don't think we should make that incident all about the short-term rental, because y'all have had that going on for a long time. I have a ring, I'm next door. I see what happens in the city, unfortunately, and still happens in the city, whether or not it's Airbnb or not, if that makes sense. So those are my 2 points. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, guys.
Anyone else would like to speak on any of the consent calendar items? I see someone else coming forth. The item that everyone's speaking to right now is the 2nd reading of the ordinance for the new regulations of short-term rentals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Seth Workman. Me and my wife own a short-term rental, and I just want to present sort of the reality of the economic situation recently. So the restrictions that have come into place have had a financial impact on our rental, and we are considering selling. And so we employ house services, we employ a gardener, we employ pool people, and we employ them at a higher rate than what a normal homeowner would. And to say that the restrictions that are being imposed, I'm sure some of which are reasonable and necessary, but if we over-restrict, you are going to hurt the economy of Desert Hot Springs, which, in my limited view, is sort of up and coming, but it's at a critical stage. And so I would ask that as the council moves forward on regulations, to ask yourself, would you install a noise monitor in your home? Would you install alarms on your windows and doors at home? And if these are things that you feel comfortable that you would do in your own home, then by all means, let's install them on short-term rentals. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Yes, Tom.
Tom Moen, 44-year resident of Desert Hot Springs. I remember the days when I first moved here and I stopped at the Chamber of Commerce and I was looking for a job. I was 20 years old. And they told me, there are no jobs in Desert Hot Springs. Go to Palm Springs and go to work. So that's what I did. And I spent many years commuting. Finally, I was able to move my business to Desert Hot Springs, and I became president of the Desert Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce, and I helped start a small business here, and I retired from that business and found myself within 3 days working somewhere else here in town. The economy is one of the most important things we have here in Desert Hot Springs, and closing down businesses does not promote a good economy. I think that the grandfather clause is very important to making for stable businesses. And Desert Hot Springs, over my course of years, has not always been the most business-friendly place. I work in tourism now, and I still remember from when I was president of the chamber, the statistic was every dollar spent in tourism circulates around the town 7 times before it leaves town. And these Airbnbs raise revenue for the city, for the other businesses, and I think that that's rather important to remember. Whether we like a business or not, they have a right to do business. I don't care for tattoo parlors, but I would never suggest they be thrown out of town. They're doing a legitimate business, and my prejudices should have no bearing on who is in business doing what. And I believe our city council has an obligation to business owners in this town who provide jobs, who put together jobs. And it's so nice not to have to commute out of town just to go to work. Thank you very much for listening. And so I want to leave the message that the grandfather clause should be there for good business operators.
Anyone else like to speak on the consent calendar? Any items on the consent calendar? Items 15 through 19. Yes, ma'am.
I almost say good morning. It's been a very long day. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Anna Dietrich. I spoke here last year on your ordinance and been following ever since. I'm a local to Coachella Valley, and I am an owner here and operator of short-term rentals. In fact, we currently, between how many people we employ and how many vendors we use, is over 100 companies that we support directly. So this is huge impact, and we are the largest local company and the largest by RDNA in Desert Hot Springs. So I want to speak from experience, and as well as I am on the multiple boards and nonprofits for short-term rental, including the president of Vero La Quinta. I've been involved with La Quinta City Council since 2020 and on a regular basis, and we've seen how the ordinance transformed there. I would love to see, learn some lessons from that city, because it's way ahead. The program is way ahead than we are here. There's so much to learn. One of them is currently what you're looking at, which is they followed the Palm Springs model of no music for about, I think it was 3 or 4 months during the COVID, and they realized that it was a wasted resources, and also from the point of equity, same ordinance that applies, noise ordinance, to residents should also apply to short-term rentals. So they changed that back in 2020 or beginning of 2021, and now, years later, what is the product of that? So the complaints are very, very low, considering there is over 1,300 rentals. I encourage you to look at some of their study sessions. It's incredible, considering we are close to Coachella grounds, festivals, sports events, you name it. So yeah, I'd love to see that here. I do support, and as well as I spoke to many homeowners, operators, and businesses, they are very excited that, a good ordinance is coming the way. Yes, it is strict, and we support. We want a strong enforcement, and I think Desert Hot Springs do an incredible job. They are there. If there's any complaint, they are investigating. You know that. So this ordinance is good, and I think it's strict, and it needs to be. The only concern we have is the 4% cap, because it's not 4%. With that 500 feet distance, that is not 4%. So it's good to be accurate. We did an overlay map of regular size lots in Desert Hot Springs. Regular neighborhoods, you're looking 40 to 50 plus homes radius. So that's one home per 40, 50 that would have that license. This is not a 4% cap. You're probably not going to see that 100 units that are available realistically. If it cannot be done this time, we encourage you to look at it in 6 months and see how many actually you get, and also where they are. Unintended consequences could happen. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Anybody else like to speak on any items on the consent calendar? Yes, sir. You just turned it off. Turn it. Okay. There you go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Tsipin. I'm a real estate broker and developer in Los Angeles. And in 2019, one of my local agents actually introduced me to Desert Hot Springs, and I seen the city develop and bloom into what it is today. And this is the reason why I'm here. I just wanted to let you know I'm not necessarily in the Airbnb business. I do have a house in Desert Hot Springs, which I do rent when I'm not there, just for purposes of it not sitting there vacant. But I wanted to let you know, me as a business person, and I always send young, successful people into the city to stay at my property as a nice gesture, because I love this town. And they all come, they spend money at the hotels, at the spas, at the stores, at the restaurants. And some of them actually ended up discovering certain businesses that ended up moving to this town. As a matter of fact, my consideration is also to bring in a location of my business into Desert Hot Springs, although we're already active in this area. So what I wanted to say, by restricting an additional business because of the overlay that I looked at with the distance between properties, it's gonna basically makes it close to impossible. It's basically a restriction of licenses. And what I wanted to say was that Airbnbs bring a lot of young, energetic entrepreneurs into the city, and by restricting that, you could create a single industry town and send it backwards. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You also. Anyone else like to speak on any items on the consent calendar? Yes, sir.
Well, ladies and gentlemen of Desert Hot Springs City Council, as pretty much, I'm also a proud owner of a short-term rental. I've had one for 5 years. I've been monitoring Desert Hot Springs for longer than that, since 2014. I've kind of watched it transform, and I believe short-term rentals have contributed significantly to this cause, in addition to providing housing for the thriving cannabis industry that's kind of bloomed here in Desert Hot Springs. The 500-foot rule, me having a property in a nice community, it would restrict me. For example, if I were to have my license for whatever reason lapsed or whatever, I would not be able to get it back. There definitely should be some sort of clause that would kind of prevent that from not happening. And at the same time, I believe that the short-term rentals definitely help the local businesses over here and the community I mean, just me remodeling my house from the outside, making it aesthetically beautiful, basically helps my neighbors kind of like look at my house and say, hey, you know what, I want to do the same thing for my property, and it beautifies our city. I've seen like Main Street convert dramatically from what it was from 2015. So it's like, I mean Palm Street, I apologize. But it's definitely, I would definitely want to look at that 500-foot distance between the properties. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else like to speak on any items on the consent calendar before the council makes a decision on to pull any items or to approve the consent calendar in whole? You can do it. Come on up.
Hello, we work for housekeeping for the short-term rentals, and taking it away or stopping it. I mean, there's crime that happens everywhere in the desert or anywhere in the world. There's crime, you know. That's unstoppable. You know what I mean? We do our job, and doing that, taking it away, we're gonna lose work out of it. You know, right now it's slow, and because of everything that's going on, and so I go for the short-term rentals. Thank you.
My name is Juanita Martinez, and I want to say that the vacational rentals, I'm also employed there, and we got to remember that they're vacational rentals too, you know.
Thank you, guys. Anyone else like to step up and say anything on any of the items on the consent calendar? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Corinne Nazario, and I'm one of the owners of the Desert Hot Springs. I own my house for almost 3 years. And I really, myself, I enjoy staying there besides doing Airbnb. And I realized that, you know, me, myself, I created about jobs for like 7, 8 people. I have a gardener, I have a poolman, I have housekeeping people. I have other people, you know, who comes and take care of the house, you know, during the day, you know, if I need the trash cans to be out or in, you know, like stuff like that. And all these people, they come and they spend money here, you know, they're just making this city more like pleasant, you know, and they spend their money here. So I think it's we have to go for short-term rentals for Airbnb, which is going to bring a lot of money to this city. And since I've been since I have my house here, I've noticed so many things have changed around the city. We have nicer buildings, nice trees, you know, stores, and a lot of changes since I moved, you know, I start coming here often. I pretty much come to Palm Springs, Desert Hot Springs for like 3-4 times a month, besides my people, you know, when they rent. And right now it's very slow because we cannot have music. Neighbors are complaining, you know, about people being there somehow when they don't even do anything. So we can go for, you know, I'm for the Airbnb renter, you know, short terms. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forth and make any comments on the consent calendar?
Hello. My mom's name is Matthew. I just wanted to know what's on the agenda for today?
Well, we're having public comments on the consent calendar. This isn't open items right now.
Okay. Well,
did you want to speak on the open items or a certain item on the consent?
Airbnb businesses.
Sure.
Okay, that's all great. I just hear you guys talking about money. Is that all you guys talk about? Money and businesses? Do you put anything else on the agenda besides that? I'm asking you a question.
You understand that during public comments, we can't have a back and forth.
Okay.
So you can make your comment, you have 3 minutes, we can't have a back and forth because we would cut you off of your time. Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Eric. I come to you to speak not as a homeowner, but as a worker of short-term, and the impact that that your decisions would have today on workers like myself is very important. And I think that the businesses and the city. I've seen the transformation the city has gone through since I started working here approximately 5 years ago. And myself, I am a property manager. I do property management, and I myself hire a lot of employees sometimes that are going through hard times. So I would really beg you to take in consideration not just the homeowners, but also people that are employed by these homeowners and small businesses, and into today's hearing. Thank you.
Thank you
That's
very
it.
much. Anyone else like to speak on the consent calendar? I see nobody coming forth. We're going to close public comments on the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion.
Move we accept the agenda.
Accept the consent calendar and
And the
accept
consent calendar.
Mr. Betts, you didn't, I'm sorry, there's a second. Mr. Betts, you said you needed to make a recusal and you wanted to reaffirm a vote.
Yeah, I'm going to recuse on item 17 as I did because I have a business close to that, within proximity of that subject matter, and reaffirming my no vote on 18 regarding the vacation rentals, and I'll save all my comments for later.
Very much. There is a motion and agenda. Any more discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
The agenda is approved and the consent calendar is approved. We will move now to city managers, I'm sorry, public comments. And this is the opportunity of anyone to speak on any items not on the agenda. I do have 3 speaker cards. If you'd like to speak on items not on the agenda, you can fill out a blue card in the back, hand it to the city clerk there, or just come up when we're finished with the 3 cards I have. Brad Emerson.
Hello, Brad Anderson, City of Ransom Mirage. I drove up here today. I think I need like an hour and a half to get up here now. So it took a while. I didn't think I was going to make it. But actually, I wanted to speak on one of the city council meetings you had at the beginning of October, I believe. I was at a vector control district meeting, and the trustee at the time complained about the public speaking. Derogatory terms were used, but I won't repeat those, about the public participating and complaining about Fourth Amendment rights on the stagnant water issue that you had, and the, I guess, the agreement that you had with the Vector Control District to use their inspection warrant to gain access to properties, private properties in the city. I wish I would have known about it, because I would have been at that meeting too, but I didn't know. So now I'm taking that opportunity. I think one of your council members are correct. I did a public records request to get that warrant, and yes, it's definitely suspect. I guess you have a memo from the Vector Control Wade of the legal counsel of the Vector Control District on that issue, but I've never seen that yet. But as far as I know, I'm not an expert, but I say that it's not, you can't legally use that, just because the expertise that the city code compliance or the police department would have in vector control is not there. There's a license involved with public health. And as far as I know, you don't have that. You may have that, but I don't know of it. So that's one aspect there, that you can't use that warrant. And there's a lot of legal aspects. I will contact the judge too. I've been meaning to do that for a number of years because the city of Ransom Ross has such a contract. And I know there's a house just down the street from me that they had an inspection warrant, and the city went in. And what they did, they actually gained financial resources and citations for the swimming pool that was already taken care of with mosquito fish, I believe, from the vector control, and then other citations too once they gain access. So it's a slippery slope that I've suggested the city doesn't use. And I used to work for vector control, so I know for a fact. I remember in Palm Desert they had the same agreement, and I always had code compliance trying to contact me to gain access to properties just for that purpose. I never did it. But I don't work there anymore either, so I'm just going to not bother you anymore with that. But I think people should be secure on their property and not have city enforcement use a warrant issued by another department or another government agency to gain access. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tom Owen.
Tom Moen, 44-year resident of Desert Hot Springs. And I wanted to explore again our God-given natural mineral water, our hot water that is the basis of our town, health and wellness. That's important. That's been important to my family. I've had 3 generations of my family benefit from the hot water here in Desert Hot Springs. And I know my family has benefited from our award-winning tap water. We don't need bottled water here. A lot of people buy it, but we don't need it. Our water is so nice. And we need to publicize this more. As I've said many times, tourism is the #1 business of Desert Hot Springs. Desert Hot Springs is not a drive-through community. It is a destination community. People come to Desert Hot Springs because we're here and we have valuable assets for people to use. Going back to bringing people in on Pearson Boulevard at Highway 62, I still advocate that we build a nice big statue so that people driving on Highway 62 can see this is a place to come. It's an exciting place. And we need our city to promote business in this town. Business is very important. Business is what keeps people here in town. I was here when Stater Brothers opened, and there's probably a few people like me that remember what it was like before we had the Stater Brothers Market open, which became one of the #1 or 2 staters in the state after it opened. And I won't refer to the nicknames, the grocery store that we had prior to them, but several people may remember the nickname that they had. And we've done good, but we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ken Anderson?
Hi, this is a way of a thank you. I use the My DHS app, and I've put 2 items in there. One was a fallen tree, and one was the weeds that go all the way around on Pearson in front of the county building. I like to walk in the morning, like Gary does, and the weeds were coming across the sidewalk so that you couldn't even hardly walk without going into the street. And whoever's on the other end of the My DHS app, it works. Not only did they clear the weeds away from the sidewalk, that whole lot is gone. I mean, every weed is gone off of that lot. And so I wanted to say thank you to whoever it is back at the other end. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, because of that My DHS app, I attended the parks meeting where we were talking about the parks the other night, and there was like 8 of us there. Not really well attended. But one of the main complaints was that people don't know what's going on, what's happening, even though I thought it was well publicized. But anybody can download the My DHS app, and you can find out exactly what's happening in this city all the time. And it's a very easy thing to do, and you can get it in any of your app stores, whether you're Apple or Android. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Ken. I know you're a COP. Eric, you have a new advocate and an ambassador for My Desert Hot Springs app. Thank you, Ken. Anyone else? I don't have any other speaker cards. I know, Mr. Handel, you're speaking on the fees, right? That'll be in public hearings. These are on items not on the agenda tonight. Anyone else would like to speak on items not on the agenda? Ma'am, are you going to speak on items not on the agenda or an agenda item? No, she's looking for an agenda. Okay. I'll close public comments at this time. I'll move to the city manager's report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I don't know how long I could use the new guy excuse. I have nothing to report today after 2 days on the job, but definitely want to acknowledge and appreciate Ms. Whelms. You know, she has been great to work with over the last couple of days, getting me up to speed, integrating with council and some of the community and some staff. So I'm going to turn it over to her at this point, too.
Thank you. He's still learning names, so we weren't going to do this to him tonight. So first, we're going to have to ask Jeffrey Buckheim, our Administrative Services Director, to provide some financial updates.
Thank you and good evening. So for fiscal year 23-24, as through October 31st, 2023, we have revenues of over $3.8 million, which is at 12% of the adopted budget. Last year at this time, we were at revenues of $3.9 million, which is also 12%. And 2 years ago, we had revenues of $5.7 million, which were 18% of the budget. The larger fiscal year 21-22 is larger because we did that $1.7 million transfer from the ARPA fund to help with the dispatch center. For 23-24, our expenditures are at over $10.7 million, which is at 33% of the budget. Last year at this time, we were at $10.2 million, at 29% of the budget, and 2 years ago, we were at almost $8.7 million, which is at 27% of the budget.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next, we're going to ask Roberta Sarnik, our Recreation and Community Services Director, to provide some updates on recreation.
Thank you. Just a few quick announcements. Our Veterans Day ceremony is this Saturday, November 11th at 9 a.m. at Veterans Park. Let's come together as a community to express our deep appreciation to the brave men and women who serve or have served in our military. And if you take a drive along Pearson, please notice our local veterans, their banners are hung along Pearson. And then our highly anticipated annual Parade of Lights and Holiday Festival is on Saturday, December 9th. The parade starts at 5:45 on Palm Drive in Mission Lakes and ends at 2nd Street and Palm. Immediately following is our Holiday Festival on Palm and Pearson until 10 p.m. with a tree lighting ceremony, free carnival rides, free cotton candy, free face painting, and free pictures with Santa and Mrs. Claus. Plus enjoy some live music and tons of food vendors. So don't miss out on the holiday fun, and we actually have a special Grand Marshal this year, which will be announced next week at our State of the City, so stay tuned for that announcement. And if you are interested in participating in the parade, you can find the application on our website under the Recreation and Community Services Department tab, and it is free to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. That concludes our updates for tonight.
And the reason that Roberta says free on a certain items is because the very first year we did this, I went on the stage and announced that everything was free, and all the food vendors freaked out because their food's not free. So she was very specific on what is free. The mayor was giving away everything, and that shouldn't do that. So thank you, Roberta. I have mayor and council member comments. I think I started that way that time, so I'll start this way this time. Mr. Betts.
Great, thank you. First, a big welcome to our new city manager, Frank Lucchino. Had the opportunity to work with you. I know you said you've been here 2 days, but you've really made yourself available to the council, and it's been great to have you aboard. I'll be quick. I attended a Palm Springs Unified School District legislative breakfast. The highlight there was all the students gave the presentation from the different high schools, and there's some really bright kids out there in our school district. Did a great job letting us know what was going on at the school district. For those of you who've been reading the news, Sunline's been having a little bit of difficulty with hydrogen fuel cell fueling. I don't know if people realize, but 24 of the buses that run on Sunline's route are hydrogen powered, meaning zero emissions. We're leading the state, actually the world, in that. But we had a problem. We have to make our own hydrogen, and the hydrolyzer fuel cell thing that generates the hydrogen for the buses is having troubles. It wasn't producing hydrogen. Fortunately, we had a backup, but without getting into all the detail, the bugs are being worked out. We're waiting for the final sign-off on the thing, and the routes, we've taken some efforts to mitigate the shortages that some buses haven't been able to run it at full capacity. So brought in some regular natural gas vehicle buses on a 1-year lease, 8 of them as a backup. And so anyhow, the board's working through that issue. It was Halloween, was nice to see everybody out in town. It seemed we got a nice time, went through some of the neighborhoods, went through some of the events that were going on. It was very nice to see the community coming together like that. Attended the Southern California Association of Governments meeting. There was a discussion on a zero emissions truck corridor, which is a fancy name for every interstate going in and out, every interstate highway going in and out of the state. And the plan is to have everything be zero emission on those corridors. But what came up in discussion was how you're going to do this and how much is it going to raise our prices. So there's going to be definite inflationary impacts for this goal to be totally 100% zero emission. It just seems like every time there's a discussion up there, it's everything that's, the panacea, but nobody getting into the detail of what's going to be the impacts. So there will be impacts from that. Attended the opening of the Agua Caliente Cultural Museum. We have another local venue to go and see, and just absolutely fantastic event, and fantastic to be able to walk through that museum and see the history of the tribes and the presentation they put on. So if you get a chance to do that, it's very much worthwhile. The graphics are just phenomenal. Attended the Desert Hot Springs football game. Started out good, then it looked a little bit challenging, and then all of a sudden the game of a century when the high school team pulled that one off 27-26, which was really, really nice to see. Very exciting time. A couple things. I get a lot of calls from residents, so a couple times I'll mention here. We've had speeding on Cactus along Wardman Park, and somebody would like something done about that. My suggestion would be speed humps. And then somebody pointed out that it seems to be the only time we worry about flooding is when it's raining, but the proper time to deal with it might be before it rains. And so the people on La Mesa who have long had a problem with flooding would love to have some type of fix. The city at one time did do an inverted crown, and that was dealing with the issue, but when Mission Springs Water District went and dug it up, and then for sewer lines, they didn't do an inverted crown, and so the people are getting flooding again. That needs to be addressed by the city. And then the other big one is traffic coming into the city until we get these roads fixed. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but when you're trying to come in on Pearson from the west to the east, it's backed up from Little Morongo way back. And there's people that are making 2 lanes out of 1. It's just a big mess. And I'm thinking there's got to be some way that a resource can be dedicated to that intersection at key times to alleviate that traffic jam and that backup, but a traffic control officer to say, come on, go, go, go. A lot of people are just stopping with no cross traffic, but the time to stop and go is creating this backup. Sure seemed to me if we could get our citizens on patrol or a regular traffic officer or contract for something, some solution needs to be found. It just doesn't sit well with me that all these people are stuck in a traffic jam, and I understand the reason for it is because the roads are closed, but I think we should be able to mitigate that. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll join in welcoming our new city manager as well to his first city council meeting. I think one of the reasons that we hired him is because of his, he's very well acquainted not only with the city, but with government entities all over the desert that we interact with on a daily basis. Now, I've got a great example of this. For instance, Councilmember Pye and myself drove all the way out to Needles in October to attend the retirement dinner for our former city manager, Chuck Daniels. So he retired after 10 years in Needles. And after we presented him with a resolution thanking him for his years of service and congratulating him from the city of Desert Hot Springs, he told us that he'd heard we'd hired Mr. Lucchino and that he thought we'd made an excellent choice and that he'd worked with him and greatly admired his skills and said he was already called him to offer any advice and background on the city to help him get started. So that same sort of recognition continues to come from my colleagues and friends on other councils, other cities who've worked with Mr. Lucchino, and it shows I think we made a wise decision, so welcome. had a chance as well with Councilmember Pai to attend the Champions of Hospitality Awards, which is presented by the Visit Greater Palm Springs Convention Visitors Bureau. And we were fortunate to have a number of nominees again this year. It's almost like an Academy Awards show for tourism. And for our most prominent and successful properties, were nominated this year. Osier Palm Hot Springs, The Spring, Good House, and Two Bunch Palms all were nominated for awards. And the Good House received the most nominations across the board. Any property, anywhere in the desert. And they were even nominated for the prestigious Palm Award for Visitor Excellence, as was Brian Edson. Wayne Krieger from The Spring also was nominated, and Maria Lease from Osier Palm. Brian was also nominated for the Oasis Award for sustainability for the efforts they do there to have a sustainable property, and the Santa Rosa Diversity Championship Award for his reach out to diverse communities. And winning an award this year was Iona Vasile from The Spring Spa. She's in the massage area there. I'm really, really proud of all of our nominees and the winner again this year, and it's great to see our really excellent properties get recognized by the Tourism Authority. At the invitation of Congressman Ruiz and the coalition advocating for the Chuck Walla National Monument, I was honored to be a part of a small group that spent a couple of quick days in Washington, D.C., meeting with members of the California delegation and the Department of Interior and the Vice President's office to garner support for that proposed national monument. We got a very positive reception for the proposal. I'm optimistic we'll see that declared. DHS was, if you recall, the very first city to pass a resolution in support of that national monument, which, if enacted, will mean the Coachella Valley is the only place in the United States, only metro area in the U.S. that is completely surrounded by national monuments and national parks. So it makes an even greater tourism destination. And finally, once again, I'm going to steal all your thunder. Councilmember Pai and I attended the Friends of the Desert Hot Springs Library fundraiser spaghetti dinner at the Elks Lodge. They sold it out. It was packed. They raised a lot of money for Friends to support our library here in Desert Hot Springs, and it was a great event. That's all I've got, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Nunez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of things. We attended last month the Do the Right Thing Award, and I just want to acknowledge our recipient for that award happened to be the son of the Planning Commissioner, Leroy Aliman. That is not his son. But yeah, this is his son on the left-hand side here. That's his son, Danny Aliman, and our Planning Commissioner, Leroy Aliman. So I just want to acknowledge him tonight and say congratulations, and I am pretty sure he's going to be doing a lot of sports and getting awards from those sports, from baseball into football. So I want to say thank you for that. Other than that, I mean, the last 3 months, Mr. Mayor, we've been really, really busy, from opening up the hub to meeting with residents, the Friday nights on Pearson, doing town halls for the mural project, meetings that staff had set up with different organizations and nonprofits, doing private events, volunteering my time there. But more importantly, the sports activity has been overwhelming for me, since I have one kid doing soccer, another kid doing the basketball rec. So I just been jumping around everywhere. So I just want to say thank you for staff that we've really been, usually when we go dark in the summer, we weren't there. We're doing, meetings here, meetings there, special meetings. So I just want to say thank you to staff for putting up with us and putting us in the right direction. I think we're coming to a point where the city is very, very bright future, and with the right guidance and the responsible growth, I think it's going to be an exciting time to be a part of Desert Hot Springs. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I remember those days and having multiple kids in the house and having to go from here to there. We got one left. Madam Councilmember Pai.
I'll be short. Councilmember Gardner and I attend a lot of community events. We are not dating.
Eric will be glad to know that.
See how Eric feels about that.
On Wednesday, November 15th, Coffee With, which is with the RAP Foundation, is giving. It's Giving Thursday, which is happening in March, and they're telling nonprofits what you need to do to get money. For instance, one nonprofit during the campaign got $60,000. It's not a lot to do, so on the 15th, just go to the website and you can either go on Zoom or you can go to the RAP office. On the 11th, besides Veteran Days, Cabot's Museum is having an event at 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Yes, this is going to have to be short. Palm Springs football team is doing really awesome, and it's the first time that they've made it in their history. The first graduating class was in 2000. That's a big deal. The coach says that we are going to play for each other. They are also playing for us. Thank you.
And you had said Palm Springs football, but you meant Desert Hot Springs High School football.
Oh, I told you it was going to be short, yes.
I didn't want them to get mad at you, but that was great. My report will be short tonight. I did attend the Palm Springs Unified School District State of the District, which was really interesting. I have not attended for quite a few years because of COVID, and the year before that I was working, so about 4 years. And what they did this year, the interim superintendent, I don't know if they've done this in the past also, is they brought kids, young adults or young people before they're adults, I don't know what they want to be called these days, but they brought them from the high school, and each high school has gosh, I'm blanking here, a program that you can sign up for, such as public safety or renewable energies, and each high school has those in their school district. So they brought those academy individuals to speak for those programs for the school. So it wasn't somebody standing up there telling you all about what they think the next state was going to be. It was actually kids telling you those things, and it was great. So that was really a good opportunity to hear what was going on in the district. I was asked to speak at Rotary on the State of the City. I did a small version of what the State of the City will be with that, and I introduced the new city manager to our Rotary Club. Bubbling Willows Elementary School had a cleanup, so Mayor Pro Tem and I have partnered together to continue cleaning up our community with different types of programs. And one of the programs is we go into the schools. We have our local waste hauler do a program about where trash should go, not in the desert. It should go in the trash can and in recyclables, and what that means with the organic waste and all that stuff. And then at the end of that week, what we do is we do a cleanup at the school. We usually get 5 or 6 individuals. But what's been great about the program is about the second school I think we did last year, we partnered with a nonprofit that actually brings down, I think this time it was 40 individuals from the Marine base that volunteer their time as Marines on a Saturday to come down and clean up those areas. So with that said, we were able to fill up the trash can very quickly because you have 40 bodies out there cleaning up trash, and it's a great program and a great nonprofit. And I'm going to bring Daniel to one of these meetings to talk about his nonprofit because I think it's really important. Diversity Desert Hot Springs had a town hall event with the police chief and I. They do this about once a year, and there was about 20-25 people in attendance here in the council chambers, and we were able to speak on issues that were important to them, talk about what's going on in our city, and be able to answer questions from the government side of things politically, and then from our public safety side, our chief was able to answer those, so that was well attended, and I want to thank them for inviting us. Again, as Councilmember Pai stated, Desert Hot Springs High School football, and I think someone else stated it, Mr. Betts, they went to their first home playoff game in history, school history, and they won in the last minute 27-26. It was an awesome feeling to see them do this. They are now traveling to the next level of playoffs, which will be in Baldwin Park, and they'll be traveling there this week for that, so let's root them on. It's a whole new generation of kids that are coming through the program, but a new coach that has a new program, and it's working out really well. And then last, I'd just like to say the State of the City is an important important time for the city of Desert Hot Springs. It's a time that I get to get up and talk about what has happened this past year, talk about how great our staff has moved these projects along, but also talk about the future, what we look like for the next year. So I'm really excited about that. It's next Thursday, so a week from this coming Thursday on the 16th. If you want lunch, you can order a ticket through the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, and that's on their website. Or if you just want to attend, there's going to be seats on the outskirts, and you can just come attend the meeting and listen to what's going on. If you work like most of us do, I get to take that afternoon off and be able to give the address to everyone. You can actually catch it on YouTube. So it'll be recorded and played at a future meeting. They can't do it live because some of the feed there, but eventually, not eventually, the following day or so, as soon as it's uploaded, will be on YouTube's City of Desert Hot Springs YouTube page, and you can watch the state of the city and fast forward to the stuff that bores you and get to the stuff that you want to hear about. So it should only be, we start at 11:30 with the Chamber of Commerce likes to give some awards out and recognize a few people, and then we try to about 20 minutes, 25 minutes into it, get to the state of the city, and I try to have you out of there in an hour. So if you can attend, that'd be great, and hope to see everybody there. All right, let's get to business here. So first item of business is we're going to start with our public hearings. Item number 5 is the annexation number 48 to the City of Desert Hot Springs Community Facilities District, number 2010-1 for APN 666-360-017. Mr. Buckheim.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this is the public hearing set from the resolution of intention that was approved on October 3rd, 2023, to annex 4 acres of land into the Community Facilities District number 2010-1. The annexation will allow the city to levy a special tax on the property in order to pay the costs of maintenance services provided by the district. Following the adoption of the resolution calling for the election, the city clerk will then canvass the voted ballots delivered by the property owner and report the results to the city council. The council will then consider the adoption of the resolution declaring the results of the election, which will complete the annexation of the property into the community facilities district. We also have representatives from Webb Municipal Finance here if you have any additional questions.
Thank you very much for the staff report. Before we go to opening the public hearing, is there any questions for staff from City Council? I don't see anybody in the queue. I will open the public hearing at this time, and we'll take any testimony from the public. Would anybody like to speak on this item? I see nobody running towards the podium, so I will close that item at this time. Close the public hearing, and we'll go to discussion or a motion.
I move we adopt the annexation number 48, City of Desert Hot Springs Community Facilities District number 2010-1 for APN 666-360.
Sorry, you jumped ahead. And first, we need to adopt a resolution calling for the election.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Are you sure? That's okay.
I'm pretty sure. That's what it says on here. I got to.
That's what I'm reading from too, but okay.
Okay, so it says item number 7, adopt a resolution calling for the election. I have a motion by Mr. Nunez. Is there a second?
I thought you were on number 5. That's.
I am.
It's 2 steps.
There's 2 steps to it.
Got it.
I did it one time.
So I do have a motion by Mr. Nunez. Is there a second? A second to call for the election? Yes? Okay. And please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
At this time, we'll hold the election and canvass the election. Mr. Siriano?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The property owner has voted in favor of the annexation.
Thank you very much. Now we can go to adopting the resolution. Would you like to do that, Mr. Gardner?
Sure. All right. We adopt annexation number 48, City of Desert Hot Springs Community Facilities District 2010-1 for APN 666-360-017.
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there no more comments? Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item number 6, which is creating special tax area 54, Snyder Investments LLC for APN 666-360-017 within the Desert Hot Springs Special Public Safety Tax Area. Mr. Buckheim?
Yes, so this is actually for the same parcel. for the public hearing that was set by resolution of attention and approved on October 3rd, 2023, to create special tax area zone 54 within the City of Desert Hot Springs Special Public Safety Tax Area. The annexation will allow the city to levy a special tax on the property to fund public safety services. Again, as following the adoption of the resolution calling for the election, the city clerk will canvass the ballots delivered by the property owner and report the results to council. The council will then consider the adoption of the ordinance establishing a special public safety tax zone 54. And we have, again, we have Nadia from Webb Municipal Associates to Municipal Finance for any other additional questions.
So I'm not the only one to get tongue-tied, right?
Yeah, I know.
All right, do we have any questions for staff on this item? I see none in the queue. I see nobody shaking their head. I'll open the public hearing at this time. We'll take any testimony. Does anybody like to speak on this item? Please come forth. I see nobody coming forth. We'll close the public hearing at this time, and we'll go to council discussion.
Mr. Mayor, adopt a resolution calling for an election.
Don't think we have to have a resolution for election on this
Oh, we
one.
don't? Oh.
No, I just need to know if there's any discussion. No
I was
discussion?
trying to make you feel better.
No discussion. We'll hold the election and canvass the election for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The property owner has voted in favor.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Betts, would you like to adopt?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, move to adopt.
All right, there's a motion to adopt the establishing the Public Safety District, Zone 54. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there is a motion, a second. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Welcome to the city.
Thank you. Item number 7 is appeal fee related to vacation rental permits. Ms. Newsom.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Chapter 5.44 of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code regulates vacation rentals. Further, the subsection 5.44.060 provides that an applicant to file an appeal for the denial of a vacation rental permit, a filing fee established by the City Council by resolution must be paid at the time of filing such appeal. The proposed resolution would establish a fee to appeal the denial of a vacation rental permit. The proposed total cost of the fee would be $738.69 for full cost recovery. Staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution to establish a vacation rental permit denial appeal fee. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Before we move any forward, I have a speaker card from Matthew Young. It doesn't say what item. Is it on general? Mr. Siriano, do you know if it's on just general public comments at the end?
I'm assuming he didn't mention.
Okay. Is he in the lobby? Might want to check. Thank you very much. I just want to make sure we don't miss it on an item. And then entertain questions of staff on, do we have any questions of staff? Yes.
So this is just a quick normal nexus has been done to determine what it costs. This is a hearing procedure. All this is doing is setting the fee that somebody needs to pay to cover the cost of the appeal. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff before I open the public hearing? Okay, we'll go to opening the public hearing and take any testimony in favor or opposed or neutral position. I see nobody coming. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Handel, you had a card in. I'm sorry, you can come forward. It says vacation rental regulations permit fees, and that's what we're discussing right now is. Yeah. Can you press that button there? It'll turn on your mic for you. There you go. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Eric Handel. I own The Getaway, a 4-unit complex in Desert Hot Springs. The Getaway was designed and built in 1960, and I restored it over the past 10 years. It was previously owned by Hope Springs Resort and operated as part of their hotel. I purchased this property in 2012 and have been licensed and approved to operate the units as short-term rentals since then. The Getaway is one entity with a single income tax schedule, a single property tax bill, and a single TOT payment for the 4 connected units. The Getaway has been a good and reliable revenue stream for the city of Desert Hot Springs. This year, the cost of vacation rental permits skyrocketed to over 10 times what I have paid previously. I had been paying under $500 per year and now pay almost $5,000. This additional expense is not one that can easily be absorbed or passed on to my customers. When rates go up, bookings go down. I understand there is a nexus the city follows to cover its cost of inspection, but the cost to inspect a single property with 4 units is not multiplied 4 times what it costs to go to an individual family home with as many bedrooms. City fees should reflect the efficiency of inspecting one property with multiple units rather than applying individual fees to each apartment in a multi-unit complex. When the compliance inspector came to inspect my vacation rental property earlier this year, the entire process took all of 30 minutes for the whole complex. It is unfair that a vacation rental home with 5 bedrooms is charged for only 1 single permit when a multi-unit property of the same size with 3 one-bedroom apartments and 1 two-bedroom apartment is charged for 4 individual permits. Small businesses like the Getaway are trying every means possible to attract visitors to Desert Hot Springs. In reality, the Getaway and other multi-unit vacation rental properties are operating as boutique hotels and only use Airbnb and other reservation platforms to increase room occupancy. Because of new regulations, we are all confronted with the same problem. Stop marketing on these platforms and have lower occupancy, or pay exponentially increased fees. I understand that the city has changed its way of managing vacation rental permits, and the cost to do so is more expensive, but this increase in fee cost is unreasonable and unjustified. I urge the City Council to amend current regulations to make a fair adjustment that will have single address fees apply to small multi-unit vacation rental complexes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, and I apologize. I think I mixed this up with what I thought was the item that we're on today, but that was more of a general comment on the ordinance itself and the permit fees. So noted, and our subcommittee has heard you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Do you need me to talk another time, or?
No, that's it. That'll suffice for now.
Okay,
Thank you
very much.
Is there anyone that would like to speak on the public hearing on the, appeal fees? Thank you. My brain is shot tonight. Appeal fees. All right, I have nobody coming forth. We'll close the public hearing at this time, and we'll go to City Council discussion. There is somebody in the queue, Mr. Betts.
It worked?
It did.
Oh, good. There's obviously a loose connection between what the gentleman was talking about with his situation and fees in general. I think the fees that staff's come up here for the appeal, which is a subject this agenda item, are fair. I don't think they've inflated them. If I could interject here a little bit, I do hope the subcommittee will take up this issue of Mr. Handel brought up that there's something that needs to be looked at there. And that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Anybody else in the queue? Anybody like to speak? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we adopt the appeal fee related to vacation rental permits.
I'll second.
There is a motion and a second. When it comes up on the screen, if there's no further discussion, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
We're going to now move to the administrative calendar. Item number 8 is parking management plan. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. In spring of 2021, city staff submitted a grant application to the Southern California Association of Governments, or SCAG, through the Sustainable Communities Program for the completion of a parking management plan. In an effort to review existing conditions and plan for future demand, the parking management plan's scope of work was focused on the city's downtown district and the industrial cannabis area. That following summer...
I need to interrupt. Okay, I was trying to find out where this was. I didn't see the map of council member areas on this one, but I do have a business, I believe, which is in the...
There's no action on this. This is a receive and file. Would you still have to recuse yourself?
I don't know. That's what the city attorney's for, huh?
Yeah, because you would need to recuse yourself. You can't even participate in making a decision.
Okay, so there's no decision, but I still will leave the dais just for abundance of caution. My wife and I have a business that's will be affected by the parking management plan.
All right, Mr. Smith, go.
Thank you. The following summer, the city was notified by SCAG that the parking management plan project was successfully selected for grant funding. In fall of 2022, SCAG retained Walker Consultants to complete the study of current and future parking and access needs in the two areas of focus. That study is now complete and attached to your staff report as Exhibit A. With us tonight is Mr. Stefan Turoff. He is a principal with Walker Consultants, and at this point, I'd like to ask him to please present on the report. Thank you very much.
Press the button. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, thank you for the introduction. I'm Stefan Turoff. I am with Walker Consultants. For 20 years, I've worked on planning issues, parking planning issues here in Southern California, in Palm Springs and Riverside. Right now we're working in Redlands, all over. This study was a little different, just a little bit. As was mentioned, we responded to a request for proposals from the Southern California Association of Governments, really part of their Sustainable Communities Initiative, which the city of Desert Hot Springs and another city in Orange County had responded to look at your parking in the downtown area and the Cannabis district. Let's see if I can. Oh. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Few technical difficulties. We'll get back to it in a second here.
All right. Okay.
There we go. Here we go.
Thank you. So I want to go through here. This, as I said, was an interesting one. Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, had their interests in innovation and planning. Certainly the city had your interest. We've heard a lot about economic development already today in terms of two very different districts, your downtown and the Cannabis industrial districts. And we'll talk about some of our findings and recommendations. And hopefully hear some feedback. So as I mentioned, SCAG's interest in this was part of the Sustainable Communities Program, really looking at innovations. And part of this was SCAG is undertaking an ongoing effort to map the curb. Part of this was seen as, looking at the future of automated vehicles, which is still, by and large a ways out, but everything from micromobility, really getting an understanding, digitizing the curb, and seeing different ways to use the curb. So we tried to keep that in mind for our study. Best practices in curb management, we'll talk about that a little bit here. The curb is typically looked at for parking availability. We saw all different kinds of parking behaviors in the Cannabis district. At the same time here, along your main commercial corridor, SCAG was very interested in sustainability, so we wanted to pay attention to that. Parking and driving and sustainability have a lot to do with one another. And SCAG has increasingly been bringing up equity issues. And this is really an interesting one. Driving in many respects is getting more expensive. Cars are getting better, but they're getting more expensive. It's a big investment to jump from not having a car to your first car. With electric vehicles, hopefully fueling will get less expensive. But we see overall that to address equity issues, we need to look at transportation beyond the car. And that comes into play when we're doing a parking study. So in your case, for your city, as I mentioned, we looked at downtown along Pearson and the Cannabis Industrial District. We'll see a map of this in a moment. Looking at general a parking framework, how you should approach parking moving forward, and innovative practices. So I realized we started, I think, almost exactly a year ago. We were here with, I believe, the Downtown Steering Committee, initiated the project. We then went out and collected a lot of data. We counted parking spaces, we mapped parking spaces on the curb to get the supply, the inventory, and then we counted cars. We did that at all times of the day to see how busy things were. A lot busier in the Cannabis district generally than here, but really getting sort of a baseline, a lay of the land. We also conducted community engagement. We were here, we had a booth out for the holiday parade. We're coming up on that again, I think. That was in early December 2022. We did a number of intercept surveys with employees, and we had an online survey as well to try to hear what people thought about parking. Part of what we heard was really this area along Pearson as certainly a growing business area, but also a civic space where people could gather and walk around, or where you could have events. So we wanted to be mindful of that. I'll talk a little bit later in the presentation. You know, parking is really space intensive. It's land intensive. So whenever we talk about how to use parking, civic space, businesses, that always comes into play. So again, our scope was looking at the supply and demand of parking here along Pearson, downtown, and your Cannabis Industrial District, talking to the community, looking at case studies, different cities around the area, looking at your goals, vision, SCAG's regional vision for transportation, and then coming up with recommendations. So this was the area along Pearson, right in the middle, one block going up on each side, First and Acoma, that was the north-south boundaries, and then from Mesquite over here, over to Coachella. So it was a pretty long area. So when we look at parking planning, we said, you know, this is, much of this area you can't walk from one part to the other. So we wanted to be mindful of that. Also interesting, you have that commercial district up and down Pearson, but then you have the mixed-use zoning on either side of that. So again, these were the land uses that we saw. You know, it's interesting how you have commercial, as a lot of towns and cities in Southern California do, right up to your residential, even single-family district on either side. And currently, you have no parking restrictions. So we can look at mapping the curb and have all these, you know, big ideas. But right now, you don't have parking restrictions. You're not really enforcing a 2 hours, a 3 hours. Part of what SCAG asked us to look at was, you know, pricing for parking. That's a long way to come here. We're not looking at that yet. But slowly but surely, as things get busier, we would look at how to manage parking. So your findings. You know, we wanted to get ahead of any parking issues as your downtown grows. And you know, we know there's not a parking supply issue, but we would argue there is something of an issue. That is, you have so many spaces. We found more than 80% of spaces during the peak, which is typically a lunchtime on a weekday. That's true of just about every city in Southern California. Lunchtime weekday is when the demand for parking peaks. But we found over 1,000 available spaces there. If you quantify that by saying 250 to 300 square feet per parking space, that's over 6 acres of land that basically never get used. So rather than saying there's a shortage, we know that you're trying to get ahead of the problem. We said, gee, there's a lot of space here that could be used for something more productive than parking, especially when people are not using it for parking. There's a lot of growth, and this is really an asset, though. It's an asset on the street. The land is a public asset. It's an asset for businesses in the area to develop and grow. Yeah, so we really saw all this parking. It takes up a lot of valuable land. It also creates, it hinders a critical mass of businesses and destinations and civic space for people to come to a downtown, to your downtown along Pearson. And this is what was interesting, so different. You know, looking at your industrial cannabis district, we looked along Two Bunch Palms and the Little Morongo. You'll see there you have a lot of growth. At times we saw a lot of traffic. In some cases we saw parking along the curb or areas that did not have a curb. Very different type of area. Both parking is an economic development issue, but in very different respects. So here you are, Cannabis District. Parking demand there is employment. We saw people just pouring in at different times, especially shift changes. The Cannabis District, essentially it's a light industrial use, but one of the issues that came into play was within that light industrial use, you have cultivation, you have manufacturing, you have administrative, and all have different levels of parking. And we also saw, even over the course of the year of our study, that some of those businesses were changing land uses, and yet the parking amount remains the same. So that's a challenge, but we saw that these businesses needed some flexibility in parking to do their business. Other things, we did see scooters out there. We did see people walking or riding their bikes, typically from Palm. The connectivity issue was a challenge. So it did seem like if you're working in the Cannabis Industrial District, you need to drive there. We saw a lot of carpooling, which was interesting, and we talked to people working in the area. Some people come from pretty significant distances, and commuting is a pretty significant cost. And I'll talk in a moment. We talked to Sunline Transit and Riverside Transportation Commission, but right now there was informal carpooling. That was really, in mass, the only other way that people got to their jobs there other than driving alone. So again, that stretch without that ability to easily, it's not close, it's not super close to Palm, but there is transit up and down Palm. We thought, is there some opportunity for people either who live in the community or who are commuting into the community to come in a way that doesn't require driving by themselves, driving alone. So again, in the Cannabis District, we had a subconsultant, IBI, one of only 2 firms in North America that maps the curb. This is why we brought them on. We think this is a big reason why SCAG engaged us. We found nearly 1,900 parking spaces along the street in areas that are being built out south of Two Bunch. There's a lot of opportunity for curb parking, and it's a cost, but it's also an opportunity. Again, the majority of these spaces are streets that still there's no curb and gutter yet, but as the area grows, it's the opportunity for that. Most of the developments, we heard that, there's a shortage of parking in the Cannabis District. We went around to all the sites, all the big sites, and almost all of them had more parking spaces than cars, quite a bit more. So although we heard there was a significant issue, it was really only one property, and it wasn't all the time, and to sort of engage or create policy just for that reason seemed to be jumping the gun a little. And then lastly, as I mentioned, parking requirements are a big issue these days. Everybody wants to make sure they have enough parking. We wanted to look at the parking ratios, how much is enough parking here? And we saw all over the map from, less than maybe half a parking space per 1,000 square feet to, I think in one case, maybe over 3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet. So to recommend one, which we wanted to do, was it was too inconsistent. And we thought that was not a wise thing to do. So we did not recommend a specific cannabis-oriented parking ratio. By and large, the businesses there were adequately parked. So our recommendations, going back to downtown and along Pearson. And I understand the city, I was just talking to staff today, really got ahead of us and went and implemented a lot of this, which I think is very thoughtful and glad to see it. So we suggested repealing minimum parking requirements in downtown Desert Hot Springs. I don't want to speak in too much detail for you, but we understand that was recently undertaken. I think that can be a hard thing to get done because it doesn't sound, it sounds like a little bit like the Wild West, but we see parking requirements are a real hindrance to economic development. They're just inflexible. You have plenty of parking, why require more? We're glad to see that was done. That was the first recommendation. Second of all, and here's something else, encourage shared parking. We study and we model parking for 30, 40 land uses. I may have mentioned before, just for example, health club. Our models show January, health club, the demand is really high. And February, March, April, summer, it just goes away. But there's a parking requirement typically for a health club, just like there is for a restaurant. All these different businesses typically use parking at different times. And if you can share that parking, your parking footprint, your asphalt parking, your parking footprint, all that asphalt can be minimized. It's more efficient. You get more of a downtown. My understanding is state legislation was just passed that will go into effect the beginning of next year, I believe, mandating shared parking, or I should say it doesn't prevent shared parking. So a typical code, it's very hard to share parking across parcels. Now you're able to, at least on the state level. That's something we thought, you have all this parking here. If somebody wants to build out their parcel and use parking next door, why not? You have plenty of parking. Facilitate mixed use development throughout your downtown. That, again, different uses peak at different times. In terms of housing, we're seeing where's the money these days to build infrastructure, to improve sidewalks. There's just so much money and so much encouragement of housing. If you could even add housing in the downtown, we thought that could create multiple, it creates employees, it can create customers for your businesses, it allows you to build up your downtown. Really mixing up the use would help with your parking. Because efficiency is parking is land hungry. Anything we can do to minimize that footprint is going to help your businesses as a civic space, the sustainability issues that we heard that SCAG was so interested in. Enact measures to encourage more walking, bicycling. We see that you're doing this right now, that you have pedestrian improvements that you're looking at already. You have the safety corridor along Palm. The bicycle plan, my understanding is that you're looking to update that. This stuff is for real. And of course, we live in Southern California. Most people drive most of the time. But when we look at equity, whether it's younger people, high school students, the elderly, I have both my mother and my kids in my household, and I see they cannot drive. And they they walk more. They take transit more when they can. This is really, it's a fairness issue, it's an access issue, and the less we drive alone, the less parking we need, and the more it contributes to a civic space and a business-friendly space. In terms of parking in the future, someday you're probably going to need regulations up and down Pearson, maybe some restrictions, maybe someone to keep an eye on that. The technologies are getting better for license plate recognition. Some people say, that they worry about that. That's just to see that cars are turning over, but you're not there yet. That was one of the things SCAG asked us to look at. We did not see that you need that level of enforcement or technology yet. But as downtown fills in, you will, and that's something to keep in mind. Typically, we often hear about adding parking lots, parking structures. You always want to manage parking first. One of the cities we looked at in 29 Palms, the ability to say you don't have to provide your own parking, but provide parking lots around your area, but people still spill out on the street. Then you do want to manage that parking, but then get people to use the parking throughout the area. Share the parking. Anytime you can share parking, it is really a good thing. It's a productive thing. So long-term strategies, we talked again as city staff, this area seems in many ways very ripe for a specific plan for a parking district as you grow the area. We saw what the students at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo did for a vision for the area. It was really good, and they really dug into it, and I think our recommendations are very consistent with that. So the Cannabis District, again, gosh, the demand for parking was just all over the place. And I'm a little bit of a numbers person. I liked going through all the numbers, each parcel. How much parking did they need per 1,000 square feet? It varied, and we saw that it changed even during the course of our study. So parking requirements, we said, in this case, don't lock them into a specific number. We understand that in your new ordinance, there's more flexibility about a parking study. That's very productive because every place is different, and parking requirements can be so arbitrary and can be a real barrier to opening a business. So allowing a business to say, this is how much I really need, I think is a real benefit to that business. Driving alternatives. So we talked to Sunline. It was very interesting. They had so many programs going on, an on-demand microtransit service, which does not cover the whole city, but it's growing. And we thought, gee, if something like that could reach the Cannabis District. It sounded like Sunlight, we heard, some of the challenges with the new technologies, the fuel technologies, but really we wanted to make employees aware of all the opportunities that there were out there, informal or formal carpooling programs, so that people coming from, other parts of the valley, over in Riverside, Banning, Beaumont, that they could avail themselves of this. At the same time, as I mentioned, if we could just provide a little better connectivity for example, to Palm with bike lanes, sidewalks, scooters. It's something you see in a lot of places that younger people, people in late teens, 20s. It's how people are moving around. We hear a lot about electric cars, but the real revolution does seem to be smaller batteries and small vehicles. A number of cities are asking us much more about golf carts these days. And the challenge there is not the parking, it's the arterials, but it is so efficient and relatively inexpensive. So here's another thing we wrestled with a little bit on Two Bunch. That you have that big, wide street. You have, when the shift changes come, people lining up. We thought, is there a way that you could put formalized parking, maybe slow Two Bunch a little bit, add some spaces so for the people who come for their shift, and if they have to wait a little while, there are parking spaces there, narrows the street a little bit. But also, if I'm a business and I'm expanding and I'm having more employees, I have a spillover area where people can park, and I don't have to worry about this huge footprint of parking on my property, because one thing we know is when all that land is dedicated to parking, it's not being productive for the business or for the city's tax revenue. So this was, SCAG asked us to be innovative, really looking at Two Bunch and seeing what we could do to make it more multimodal, maybe some parking. Even we looked at shade structures, along some of the businesses. Would that encourage some people to park there, walk there? It's a big street, and there's opportunity there to improve access. Other things like mix of uses, we got the sense that people come and go from that area looking for dining options, lunchtime. Food trucks can be good. There's different policies on that, but if you mixed up the land uses a little bit more, maybe to provide some dining, that might be a way to lessen the traffic, be a service to the people working there, and just get a little bit more of a mixed-use district, even if it is an employment district. So those were our findings, our recommendations. There was a lot here. It was a thick report, a lot of data. Happy to answer. I'm tongue-tied today also. Any questions?
Well, we appreciate the report and did a fantastic job. I'm sure there's a lot to soak in here and try to figure out what we're going to do in the future. But any questions?
Just one, Mr. Mayor. As part of the contract, are you guys able to help us go out to find monies from the state or from federal government to help with the parking?
We have one piece of this report, and it's a big report, so hopefully, I think we have it as an appendix also, suggestions for funding. We have some of that in there. You can take a look at that. If you want to discuss it more, I'm happy to discuss it more, but I think that was the extent of what we're doing there.
No further comments. Thank you so much for the report. This is a receive and file, and I'm sure we'll be bringing this back at a later date to discuss further.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you to city staff. That was for all their help and input on this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Before we move on, we'll call Mr. Betts back into the room. Yeah, she's trying to get the air down. All right, we're going to move to item number 9, First Amendment to Engineering Plan Check Professional Services Agreement with NV5 Incorporated. Mr. Haker's not here. Who's taking that one? Mr. Porras, there he is. Mr. Porras is a little bit under the weather, so he's working from home today. Mr. Porras?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll give a quick summary. Currently, the city of Desert Hot Springs utilizes NV5 Incorporated for surveying plan checks, engineering plan checks for large projects, engineering plan checks for CIP projects. And as large projects come in, we must increase the contract amount. The current contract amount is for not to exceed of $20,000, but the city has received a few large projects such as Project Viento, which is also known as Amazon, which is provides a necessity to increase the amount from $20,000 to $100,000. I'm sorry, from increasing it by $100,000 to make a total of $120,000. This amendment does not change the scope of their work. All it does is increase the amount of their contract to allow for them to continue and complete the plan checks that are needed for development. Those plan check fees are paid by the developer and the applicant when they submit and pay for their plan check permits. This is just a pass-through fee that the city receives and pays. Attached is a professional service agreement, NV5, and I'll gladly answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments on this item, number 9? See nobody coming forth. Do we have any council comments?
I'll make a motion that we award the First Amendment to the engineering plan check professional services agreement with NV5 Incorporated as recommended by staff.
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gardner, did you move it on the screen? Thank you. Second. Please vote. Go ahead.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 10 is the award construction contracts for road repairs to storm drains. Mr. Porras.
All right. Can you see my presentation?
No.
Let's see if that one. Give me just 1 second. All right, can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Again, this is the item is regarding the awarding of construction contracts for road repairs to the storm damages. I'll give you a brief history on Tropical Storm Hilary, the damages to Desert Hot Springs, the process of reconstruction and the timeline, and the awarding of all the contracts with a construction timeline. So I'll start off with Tropical Storm Hilary. On August 20th, 2023, Tropical Storm Hilary hit the Coachella Valley. It specifically hit Mission Creek in Desert Hot Springs, which received a rainfall equivalent to a 1,000-year storm event. Storm events are measured by the probability based on empirical data. A 1,000-year storm event is meant to only be seen once every 1,000 years. Mission Creek received 9.5 or 9.25 inches in 6 hours and 12.91 inches in 12 hours. Just to give that perspective, the entire Coachella Valley receives about 1 to 4 inches in 1 year. Mission Creek received the equivalent of 2 years of water in 6 hours, so it was considered a 1,000-year storm event. Mission Creek, in relation to the city of Desert Hot Springs on the northwest mountain range. Mission Creek crosses the entire city, which affects all of our main thoroughfares. All the north-south thoroughfares, Indian Canyon, Little Morongo, State Route 62, and Palm Drive all cross the Mission Creek. Every east and west thoroughfare, Pearson Boulevard, and Dillon Road also cross Mission Creek. When the storm hit, our major damages were right directly in the impact for first North Indian Canyon Drive, then it hit Pearson Boulevard, then Little Morongo, then Dillon Road. These are the 4 main bridges or 4 main crossings that we'll be discussing today, along with other damage that we had in the street. These are the 4 that actually require action today. We'll start off with first the Pearson Bridge damage at Mission Creek. One of the 2 piers was severely damaged with an impact of 6 feet horizontally, 7 feet vertically. During the event and after the event, it was inspected and cleared to open by Caltrans, but vehicle traffic was shifted south to relieve the stress weight, and it is currently open to both directions. The Dillon Road at Mission Creek, there's approximately 300 feet of low water crossing was completely destroyed and completely washed out. Mission Creek was approximately 2 times deeper and 4 times wider. There was also an SE pole that was broken in half and multiple utilities. Utility lines are now exposed that used to be under the actual ground. This remains currently closed for both directions until we complete construction. Here's some additional pictures from both east and west sides of the actual damage itself. Little Morongo Road at Mission Creek also lost approximately 730 feet of low water crossing that was destroyed and completely washed out. Mission Creek also was about 3 times deeper and 4 times wider, and this remains closed in both directions. This is an aerial. You can see how wide the channel is now and how the damage of where the road used to be at. This picture, you can see the depth of the actual roadway where it was and where the current elevation of the creek is now. It's about 10 feet to 15 feet deeper. Indian Canyon Road and Mission Creek, there was approximately 1,200 feet of roadway and a low water crossing with culverts that was completely destroyed and washed out. Mission Creek also was 3 times deeper and 6 times wider from the original size, and it remains closed in both directions. Again, you can see the Mission Creek here. It actually expanded in 2 sides instead of just one, and it completely washed out a culvert and the roadway that was to the left of this picture and straight through. Here's a picture of the actual roadway that currently exists where all the utilities on one side are completely exposed that used to be underground. So just to go over the actual reconstruction process, first the city and the state declared local and state emergencies. The damages were assessed and identified responsibilities. There's multiple agents that are involved. For us, we have the city of Desert Hot Springs, where we met with Riverside County Flood Control. They are the lead agency for anything within the channel. We also met with Riverside County, who also shares a road of Little Morongo. Half is within Riverside County, half is within the city. And then we also have to meet with Caltrans and FHWA, who are the 2 agencies who are funding all the emergency relief funds. After that, we began all topographic surveys with new elevations from Mission Creek Channel and roadways. Again, this wasn't a simple, let me push back the dirt and re-asphalt the roads. We had to completely redesign the entire creek and redesign the entire roadway so they can match existing from the new elevations. The design of the new roads and crossings had to be functional. In other words, we couldn't just put a road and block all the storm flow from one side. We have to make sure the design does allow for proper traffic and also storm flow to flow both directions. The design also has to be approved by all agencies, Riverside County Flood Control, Riverside County, and it has to function for their design and their standards. The emergency reconstruction design and plan has to be approved by the state and FHWA in order to receive any emergency relief reimbursement. That is the point that we're at right now. And to add a little more to that, it has to be finished within 270 days of the storm event, which to us would be May 20th. The current timeline for our projects on August 20th, we had Tropical Storm Hillary. By 2 days later, when the roads were open, we started design work, we contracted our environmental work, and we started utility coordination because that was the priority at that time. By October 18th, we had a complete design and we had pre-approved plans and an RFP was sent out. On October 26th, we received 2 to 4 proposals for each location. On November 7th, which is today, we plan on awarding the contracts, and by November 20th, we want to start construction. That will leave the 4 bridges and 4 crossings to be completed between January 1st and April 20th, depending on the location itself. The Pursuant Bridge at Mission Creek, the scope of work includes the repairing of 1 pier with reinforced concrete and steel. The contractor is Powell Constructors, and the contract amount is $517,207.00. The total budget is $719,704.70. That total budget includes design, construction, inspection, environmental, materials testing, and contingency. The construction schedule for Pearson, the work began September 1st. This was emergency repair work that began under the emergency declaration, and we expect to finish the entire project by January 1st of 2024. The second location is Dillon Road at Mission Creek. The scope of work of that would be a brand new low water crossing with 2 8x4 box culverts to allow for the storm to flow, concrete top roadway to allow for maintenance, riprap, concrete cutoff walls for the actual street to not get washed off for further storms. The contractor is KIP Incorporated. The contract amount is estimated at $1,399,819.00. The total budget is $1,839,052.60. And again, that includes the design, construction, inspection, environmental, materials testing, and contingency. That schedule is set to start on November 20th. This Dillon Road has every utility that's possible. We have SCE, we have MSWD, we have CVWD, and Frontier that all cross the location, and the gas company actually all cross the location. So we have already started working with them on the utility relocation to make sure that they relocate their utilities and there's enough cover for when we come in with the box cover. So that start time is November 20th, but the end time would be April 20th with a 5-month after start. It may vary slightly by a couple of days depending on when we can coordinate all the efforts with the utilities. Little Morongo Road at Mission Creek. This is also a brand new low water crossing with concrete topway. There's buried concrete cutoff walls. This This area is actually half within the city of Desert Hot Springs, half within Riverside County. This design was similar design to the Indian section in Palm Springs that actually survived and did not get destroyed. Therefore, we're using very, very similar design with a concrete topway and buried cutoff walls to resist some of the forces that come for the next storms. The contractor for this would be KEC Engineering. The contract amount is $1,148,740.00. The total budget is $1,457,152.40. And again, that includes the design, construction, inspection, environmental, materials testing, and contingency. We are scheduled to start the construction on November 20th, and the construction should last 4 months after the start, which would leave the ending by March 20th, 2024. The last intersection is Indian Canyon at Mission Creek. This is also a low water crossing, but this one has a triple or 3 8x4 box culverts, a concrete road topway, a concrete top roadway, riprap, and concrete cutoff walls. Contractor TriStar Contracting 2. The contract amount is $3,438,249.20, and the total budget is $4,097,924.27. And again, this includes the design, construction, inspection, environmental, and materials testing and contingency. This construction is expected to start November 20th, and we expect to finish in 4 months, which is March 20th of 2024. This Indian Canyon has 2 sections. One is a low water crossing, and it also has the Indian Canyon section from Mission Lakes all the way to the crossing, so it is a larger project. The city has submitted a reimbursement request to Caltrans, which is the state, and to FHWA, which is federal, to be able to receive emergency repair relief funds for all locations. The start and end dates are approximate. We do hope and we plan on having a response from the federal and the state agencies on a notice to proceed by the 20th. That's why we set November 20th as our start date, but that could vary depending on when we hear from them. The start dates are contingent again FHWA approval. We also do have our environmental firms on standby, and they will be inspecting the project and make sure that we are in compliance with all environmental regulations as we do construction. And that leads to my staff recommendations. We have 4 items to do, so I'll take one by a time. City Council to authorize the city manager to execute agreements for construction of emergency road repairs between the city and the following contractors in the corresponding amounts listed below, and allow for any substantive changes to be made by the city manager if needed. The first one is Powell Constructors in an amount not to exceed $517,207.00 and a total budget of $719,704.70. The second one is with KIP Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $1,399,819.00 and a total budget of $1,839,052.60. The third one is with KEC Engineering in an amount not to exceed $1,148,740.00 and a total budget of $1,457,152.40. And the last one is with TriStar Contracting 2 in an amount not to exceed $3,438,249.20 and a total budget of $4,097,924.27. And that concludes my staff report, and I'll gladly answer any questions. And I just want to let everybody know that we do have drone footage of the damages that was taken like 2 days after the actual storm event. It's available on our City of Desert Hot Springs YouTube page. Thank you.
Fantastic work, Danny. This has been something that's probably the top priority for the city and the city council to get these roads back open. And hopefully a lot of you were able to see the process. It's not an easy process to get to where we're at today, but we're working as fast as we can to get this done. I will open public comments at this time on this. Is there anybody who would like to make any comments? Yes, Tom.
Tom Owen, 44-year resident of Desert Hot Springs. I too would like to congratulate our city staff, city council on this project. It's been very comprehensive. It's been a hard job, and I've been watching. I'm sure a lot of other people have too. I would like to add a project to this eventually, and that is, as I heard, the time to be working on things is when we don't have a problem. And so after everything's been said and done, I think we ought to build a retention dam that can hold storm water in a reservoir, and it might be able to hold other natural rain rather than letting it run through the desert. Retain some of it that could be channeled into the water district percolation ponds and or other city uses, irrigation, etc. This is the desert. And water control is very important. And so I certainly believe anything we can do to help with our water situation is a good thing. Thank you for listening. And again, thank you for your hard work.
Any other public comments? Close public comments. Anyone in the queue would like to ask questions?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, not necessarily a question. I just want to say thank Danny for this hard work. Like Mr. Moen said, it's very comprehensive, and I mean, all the work that you put into it, meeting with Caltrans, meeting with the state, trying to get funding. So, my hat's off to you. This is a well done work, and I agree with Mr. Moen. I think we should talk as putting in a reservoir so we can collect some of that water. I've expressed that to the water district before, so maybe that's something that we can put in our specific plan for the future, moving forward. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Pai? I don't have you in the queue. If you, Ms. Pai?
You're correcting the power construction?
Yes, there was, Power Construction was named on the bond forms that we will correct with prior to signature, correct?
Thank you.
Mr. Betts?
So as the council, we have the easy part here to vote yes. Pretty sure we're all going to do that. We have a bit of an oversight role as we're watching this process. And, 2-3 days after the storm hit, we started getting staff reports mostly from Danny Porras. And, generally we have council meetings with city manager, staff once a week. And I'm remembering this meeting I had with Danny in which he laid out everything that he was working on. And, an hour went by really quick, and I usually interrupt and, ask questions. And this one, I just sat all the way through, mesmerized by somebody who had an obvious, very good grasp. And so my job providing oversight was to say, well, this one's well under control. So Danny, you've done a fantastic job. And as was pointed out in the meeting tonight, I mean, just this little point here, 2 years of water in 6 hours came down Mission Creek. I mean, it's an interesting tidbit, but it tells me the perspective that you have on this and seeing what you've done here and the time that you've taken. And, just last thing I want to say is I attend a lot of different boards and commissions, and you run into staff that's very, very sharp. I don't think I've even run into any staff member that's given a presentation that's any better and that's handled a situation any better than you have. You've done an absolutely fantastic job. We're very lucky to have you, and thanks for your work to put all this together.
All right, I have no other comments. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Mayor, are we going to take this individually, one by one, or we're going to?
I think we can take them all as one. Is that okay with staff?
Very well.
If there are 5, we could all made a motion, huh?
There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 11 is a temporary reduction in cannabis cultivation tax for July through December 2023 tax period. Mr. Lucchino.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The item in front of you this evening is a recommendation to introduce the first reading and read by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Desert Hot Springs, amending Chapter 3.33, titled Marijuana Cultivation Tax, and 3.35, titled Medical Marijuana Cultivation Tax, to amend sections 3.33005 and 3.35005 to lower recreation and medical cultivation taxes of the Desert Hot Springs Municipal Code during the temporary period of July 1st, 2003 to December 31st, 2023. And just want to underscore that it's temporary. This expires at December 31st. Just by way of some background, in April, council gave the recommendation and approved that the tax would be reduced to 50% for the first half, and that was January through June. And also then in October, that was the April one was approved. Then in October, last month, talked about extending that temporary reduction. Council has already, in addition to the tax, provided some relief to the industry, which was already adopted, with the cultivation space and also the security requirements, and allow a 6-month ramp-up period. So that has already been adopted and approved. Tonight we're talking about the cultivation tax, the temporary relief of that. The thing that I want to talk a little bit about, 2 days ago I had black hair and now I got gray hair, is the impact of this. And if Gerald, if you could put up the slide, please. So right now what you see in front of you is our general fund, our revenue and expenses. The adoption of the budget was a balanced budget. As you can see, the revenues and expenses were budgeted, with the cultivation tax kind of highlighted in that light green. Next slide, please. So this is what we would be looking at from the city side of it on our revenue and expenses, and you can see that slight deficit there with the cannabis taxes being reduced to $7.50 per square foot. And then the last slide just gives you a further view of the deficit when the taxes are further reduced to the $5.10 per square foot. Just some additional background I think is important to know. So last fiscal year that ended June 30th, and forgetting about what was applied as far as taxes, what was paid I think is equally as important. So if you take last fiscal year, okay, which was July 1st, 22 through June 30th of 2023, on all the square footage and what was paid, which was taxed, which actually was paid, that equated to $5.82 per square foot. So that was paid. It's a very complex issue. This is a very complex issue. The policy questions that are at hand also are economic development strategies, collection, and the impact to the budget. So council, I know, has tasked me outside of this temporary this evening to bring forward the recommendation probably in the first quarter next year of what our once we have a chance to review this, to give that recommendation. But one thing I want to emphasize here, and just using this as an example, this $5.10 per square foot, and you can see the cannabis tax at $4.4 million. Last year, we collected $2.5 million, right? And this at $5.10 is showing, Jeffrey, I think it's a $2.8 million deficit, I think it is, okay? $2.8 million deficit and that $5.10. But that's at $4.4 million a collection, okay? We collected $2.5 million last year. So that 2.8 really could be higher based on lack of collection. So I think that's really important to understand. And again, why our gray hairs are increasing. This is a temporary reduction this evening in front of you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We're going to take public comments first. Anybody in the audience would like to speak to this item? See, nope. Yes, Tom.
Tom Moen, 44-year resident of Desert Hot Springs. I don't mean to monopolize the public comments. However, this is an important industry in Desert Hot Springs. And I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again. When I was 16 years old, I had the privilege of working for Ronald Reagan. a dynamic Southern California citizen who became President of the United States 4 years later. And his big deal was dynamic accounting. The standard in our government before that was static accounting. And I'm not an accountant, but this certainly looks like static accounting to me. I think that we need to find the sweet spot on the scale that will maximize revenue, minimize expense to the business. I think that is a win-win situation and a solution. And we have an excellent city staff here in Desert Hot Springs. And I think it would be quite easy for them to put this on a dynamic where they can find the sweet spot, maximize revenue, minimize business expense. And we all know that in the 1980s, we had one of the largest business expansions in our country's history. And I certainly believe that we need to look at all sides of the situation and not just a static. Because in business, if you raise prices, you have less business. If you lower prices, you have more business. But businesses do not want less revenue, they want more revenue. Businesses want as many customers as possible. J.C. Penney, a Valley resident who was very dynamic in his business, had the business application where if he could buy 100 dresses for $2 each and sell 20 of them at $5 each, he'd crack his nut and he could sell the rest of the dresses for however much he wanted. Again, dynamic accounting. J.C. Penney, Ronald Reagan, very good with economies. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in public comments on this item? Move to council member comments. I do, Mr. Gardner. I don't see you in the queue. Press the refresh button. That helps. It should be right on top. Mr. Gardner will help you. Go ahead, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a challenging topic for a number of months. And earlier this year, when we decided to temporarily reduce the tax rate to $5.10, we still had the old measurement of square footage. By going to the much reduced square footage rate of the canopy as opposed to square footage of the building, that $5 effectively became $2.50. So sticking with, we have a choice tonight of having to decide whether we're going to stick with $5 or we're going to bump it back up, again, on a temporary basis for this tax period while our wonderkind new city manager figures out what's going to happen. So we need to really pay close attention to this, because if we stick to the $5.10, the effective tax rate drops to $2.50, and we have a much bigger deficit, and it's more relief than we had promised them when we started this process earlier this year. So we need to keep that in mind and move forward and go back to a $7.50 rate for this tax period to bring it back up. In fact, the $7.50 rate is effectively $5 for them because we reduced the square footage that's measured and taxable. Ideally, I'd love to go to a yield-based model, but the law doesn't allow us to do that right at this point, so we're stuck with this rather antiquated square footage thing. But we need to keep that in mind as we move forward, so I'd like to make a motion that we go to $7.50 for a square foot on this temporary reduction for this tax period.
I know we have some more comments, but there is a motion on the table. Is there a second to his motion?
I'll second.
All right, there's a second. I'll go to Mr. Nunez. You're next in the queue.
Mr. Lucchino, when I got elected in 2020, I had hair. So I don't think you can complain until you get to my point. Okay, so I really do appreciate your comments and the insight that you have. You give a different perspective in how much money rather we're losing rather than saving, you know, the industry. So I really do appreciate it. I do echo my fellow council members' comments where I think we need to really put a home on how much monies we're going to be losing rather than how much we're gaining. So thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. Betts?
You know, there's no more telling detail than the fact that we're only collecting half of what we thought. You could put this tax up to $20 a square foot, and you're still not going to collect any more than what you're collecting now. And that's the reality. And I don't want to give you any more gray hairs, but I've been listening to the Palm Springs City Council meetings at length on this subject. They go on for a long time with a lot of detail, and they're talking about dispensary tax, which I guess when you come back, I'm hoping that we will have some recommendation on that. But our present tax when you go into a dispensary is $7.75% on the purchase. And then on top of that is another 10%. So there's an effective tax rate at a dispensary of 17.75%. No other retail product in the city do pay that kind of tax. Palm Springs is at $5 a square foot, and I believe that's on Canopy, and we compete with them. They are in an industrial park across the Indian from us. And if somebody's going to move in there, they have streets, curbs, gutters, everything's already in. And a lot of places that we have to develop, they have to go and install all that infrastructure. So even competing with them at $5 a square foot, we have a very challenged situation. But what they're talking about and what they showed was all of the decline in this industry. You can try and hang on to this, but unless we provide some relief to this industry, first, you're not going to get the tax you want, and then you're going to lose the jobs. And that's the most important factor here. I want to see how many jobs we're providing. I think that's just as important a graphic as the the revenue that's being lost to this castle that we call City Hall. Just a quick response. The square foot, when we put that in place, was that it's much easier to calculate. We set the square foot, and all we do is make sure they're using it, and it doesn't take a lot of administrative time. If you're going to go to a yield, now you got to figure out how much is going out the front door, how much is going out the back door. You got a much larger administrative burden. You're going to be spending way more than what we are now. The other thing that's missing is what we can do to reduce costs. And presently, the state has an enforcement mechanism, and they are charged with certain aspects of regulating cannabis. We are duplicating that effort administratively with our staff. That's costing us, as I heard, $180,000 a year. It's $180,000 isn't millions, but it's still money that can be saved, and they can lighten the burden here. So anyhow, I don't want to go on too much longer. I'm looking forward to the city manager coming back with a recommendation. My understanding is we're at 510 right now, and we're in the middle of tax payments aren't due until we come back and revisit this issue. And I think the mayor at the last meeting pointed that out. Am I correct, Scott, that nothing's going to change between now and then? So even if you take it up to 750, it's not going to yield any more payments between now and the time we take up this issue again. Is that correct?
I would ask staff on that. I'm assuming the current recommendation is for the current tax period, correct?
But those payments aren't coming due until January. So between now and January, you're going to have this 750 out there, and you're not going to collect any of it. And then we're going to come back and make a decision in January on what we want to do for the coming tax period, and in time before the tax period, I presume. So I think it's appropriate at that. You following me?
No, I think we need clarification on that because I'm interested.
So what my goal is during our mid-year budget timeframe and the February timeframe to bring back a recommendation for the permanent tax structure. So that's the goal from a staff perspective. As far as collection perspective of it, yeah, this period from July 1st through December 31st will be due and payable. I think it's 30 days after the 6 months. So within the month of January, that's when it'll do.
So what we vote on today will be what they pay
Correct.
in this current tax period?
Correct.
When's the current tax period start?
July 1st.
This previous July 1st?
Yeah,
Okay. You're sending a really bad signal out there for taking it to 750. And I know you guys want to get this money in, but you're not going to get it. You're hurting an industry, you're killing an industry, and you're killing these jobs.
I have nobody else in the queue. I'm sorry, are you back in the queue?
Yeah. Just to clarify that too, the amount that we collect is going to be essentially the same as what we would have done had we not lowered the square footage from canopy, or from square footage to canopy. So leaving it at 750 doesn't lose us any, we'll still get the same amount of money. If we lower it to 510, it brings us in less money than we would normally collect.
How many people leave because the tax rate's too high? Are you calculating that? I mean, it's not just all one-way street here. People can vote with their feet and move out of the city, which they are doing now.
This is a temporary thing while the city manager comes up with a permanent solution. I'm not seeing anybody walk out the door over $2.
They're walking out the door now over what we're charging.
All right, any other comments? All right, please vote.
Clarification on this vote.
What would you like clarified?
What are we voting for? Let's get the motion restated.
The motion was to reduce the amount temporarily to $7.50.
Well, weren't we at 510 now?
We were, but we had to bring it back for it.
Okay, so we're at
Sorry,
five.
hold on, you want clarification? Hold on. We get clarification over here.
So just really quickly, the prior temporary reduction has expired. So what is effectively in place right now is a square footage tax of $10.20 a square foot.
Thank you.
So I'll leave it at that.
Yes. So the current state was $10. We brought back a moratorium to reduce it, to continue the moratorium, which was at $5 and, no. Yeah, it was at $5. The moratorium was at $5 the last tax period, correct?
Correct.
And I made a motion to bring back the moratorium at $5, but the recommendation by staff is to do $7.50, which is the motion.
No, I think the item in front of you this evening comes from the recommendation from staff from last meeting at 510. So what's in front of you this evening is 510.
But the motion by Mr. Gardner is $7.50.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So to clarify, the motion, the staff recommendation is 510, and the motion is to increase that rate from 510 to 750.
Correct. For this current tax.
Thank you. Okay, can I get an ability to vote on my screen? I X'd it away by mistake. Do I hit refresh? There we go. So a no vote is to keep the rate at 510 as staff recommended, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Motion passes with Councilmember Betts and Mayor Mattis opposed.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 12 is Cal Recycle SB 1383 grant application. Mr. Noe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. SB 1383 has been the most significant waste reduction mandate to be adopted in the state of California in the last 30 years. In an effort to achieve the state requirements of SB 1383, the city has been diligently working with Cal Recycle and Desert Valley Disposal in developing an SB 1383 implementation plan and moving forward with complementing various required tasks within the required deadlines. Grant funds for the implementation of SB 1383 regulations are now available through Cal Recycle. Therefore, the city will be submitting a grant application. Cal Recycle SB 1383 funds will be used to fund program implementation and continue current program activities. With the help of consultant, the city proposes to assess organics waiver and self-haul program, evaluate 1383 public education and outreach, and perform gap analysis to ensure the city's full compliance with SB 1383. Staff recommends adopt a resolution of the City Council to authorize staff to submit a grant application for the California Department of Resources Recycling and Recovery Program, Cal Recycle, for the 24-25 funds for $75,000 for the Organic Waste Reduction Program.
Thank you for the staff report. Is there any public comments on this item? Nobody coming forth, we'll close public comments. Any questions or comments by city council?
So we're getting $75,000 coming into city coffers, is that what's happening here?
Yes, so this is basically a predetermined amount that CalRecycle allocates to each city. So for this year, we are applying for $75,000, and that is what they will be allocating to our city.
Will you come back at a later time to let us know what the money will be used for, or?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have a question. Can we look into any of our contractors that do the landscaping for the city, if they do anything with compost, and if they can help out with organic waste in any ways that we can help alleviate some of that 75,000?
Yes, so the organic compost waste is actually kind of a very complex situation because of how, the city operates. We don't actually have a lot of grass, there's ordinances that we cannot have any front lawn, so it becomes a very complicated thing. Obviously the states require us to comply with SB 1383, but it is very hard for not only us, but for many cities to meet those demands. So, which is why, we are recommending to bring in a consultant so that we can look at those areas of deficiency and meet those demands.
Thank you, Senor.
I see nobody else in the queue. Do I have a motion?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Wait for it to come up on the screen. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item 13 is Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, application resolution for fiscal year 2024-25. Noe?
Hello again. Each year, the city receives an entitlement allocation of the Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. And the city's 24-25 CDBG allocation is estimated at $270,000. The majority of these funds must be spent on capital projects such as housing, public facility improvements, or eligible public works projects. Due to the federal budget process, the exact amount of the city's 24-25 allocation may be not known until as late of May. In an effort to effectively utilize CDBG funds with eligible expenses, city staff reviewed the CDBG criteria, the city's capital improvement plan, and inspected all existing facilities. Staff completed an inspection of all city facilities and noted one of the current needs to be lack of shading in high-use areas of Wardman Park. This project will install 4 shade structures over existing bleacher seating areas, in addition to replacing an aging standalone shade structure in the park's picnic area. Warman Park is located on 66-190 8th Street. The park is mostly used for youth sports activities, particularly Desert Hot Springs Little League. The park currently offers 2 baseball fields, 2 modified t-ball fields, in addition to a basketball court, pickleball courts, a playground, and a dog park. The proposed addition of shade structure would greatly benefit residents, providing them with comfort during sunlit hours. This enhancement would further elevate Wardsman's park appeal, demonstrating the city's commitment to its community's well-being. So staff recommends the adoption of a resolution of the City Council authorizing the City of Desert Hot Springs to participate and authorize City Manager to approve all agreements, necessary documents associated with the Community Development Block Grant. Again, it's for the year, fiscal year 24-25, and it's an estimated $270,000, but we won't know until the allocations are final.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody who would like to make any comments to this item? See nobody coming forth. We'll close that and open it up to any questions or comments. If not, I will take a motion. I'm sorry, Mr. Betts, go ahead.
Thanks. I was going to make a motion, so.
Oh, go ahead.
That worked out good, huh? Motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council authorizing the City of Desert Hot Springs to participate in and authorize City Manager to approve all agreements and necessary documents associated with the Community Development block grant program for fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $270,000 approximately, with the funds going towards shade structures at Wardman Park, bleachers, and picnic areas.
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead and press move and second on the screens. Any other further comments? Please vote.
The parents watching the games will be less upset at the umpires now, Scott.
No,
Motion
I doubt
passes.
that. That'll never happen.
Motion passes unanimously.
They'll just have more energy because they're shaded. Item number 14 is purchase and sell agreement for Riverside County, with Riverside County for former library. Mr. Porras?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Riverside County is the property owner of the former library located on 11777 West Drive. Riverside County completed the construction of a new library building located at 14380 Palm Drive. With the completion of this new library, all library services were moved from the former library into a new library location. Therefore, the former library is currently vacant and not in use by the Riverside County. Riverside County and the city met and discussed the possibility of a sale and transfer of the former library. Riverside County completed an appraisal of the property and determined the property value to be at $350,000. Riverside County offered the property to the city for sale for the appraised value of $350,000. If approved, the attached purchase and sale agreement will give authorization to the city manager to purchase the former library property located at 11777 West Drive in Desert Hot Springs. That former library is actually directly across and next to the Carl May Center and the current senior center as well. In the attachments, you will find the purchase and sale agreement and the appraisal that was completed for this property, and I'll gladly answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments? Nobody coming forth. I'll open it up to council comments. Ms. Betts.
Yeah, so we had a slide earlier that showed we had a $32,000 surplus for the budget that was approved, which is about balanced. And this was off budget, correct? So this is going to put us $350,000 in the red for the year.
Out of undesignated reserves.
Okay, but the budget is, we're spending more than we're taking in, at least. So, and I don't like that situation, but this is a great opportunity to get this building. So I guess we're going to kick the can down the road a little bit further on the budget. You get a few more gray hairs, and hopefully you'll figure out how we're going to pay for this. I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Wait for it to come up on the screen. Mr. Nunez had to leave the dais, so he won't be voting this. Please vote.
Motion passes with Mayor Pro Tem Nunez absent.
And we'll move, that is all. We had no items pulled from the consent calendar. We'll move to public comments. I don't see Matthew Young in the audience. Is he somewhere to be found? Someone want to check and see if he does want to make public comments at this time? Mr. Young?
Good evening. First, I'd like to say I forgive you guys for the incident that happened to me. I was on the corner praising my Lord and Savior, and a police officer decided to throw me to the floor and almost break my wrist. And with that said, because my Father is forgiveful, and He shows mercy, but grace comes with change. And so I'm asking for a change from you all to help out. So no one's perfect, but my God is looking for leaders that are striving to be perfect. And the definition for striving is struggle to fight vigorously. And that's what I want to see in this leadership, sir. Is that water good?
Mr. Young, please have all your comments to the city council.
Yes. Okay. And can I ask you a question, and can you guys answer it?
We probably cannot answer it because this is your time. Public comment is your time.
Okay. Because I wanted to ask you, and within 20 seconds, why do you think you are perfect for your job? And are you guys a role model? And a role model, yeah.
Mr. Young, I will make a suggestion. So the public comments at the beginning of the meeting allows the council to comment in their comments after you make that. So in the future, you make the comment at the beginning would be more helpful to us to be able to answer that question, but I cannot do that. So I need to give you about a minute and 45 seconds.
Okay. God bless you guys. Forgive you. And I believe that's it. And I'll be talking to you soon. Have a good night and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any public comments that did not speak at the beginning of the meeting would like to make public comments now? I see none. We'll be moving to the adjournment, but before we do that, the Public Safety Commission will meet on November 9th. That's this Thursday at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. The Planning Commission meets on November 14th in this council chambers at 6 p.m. And our next city council meeting will be on November 21st. We are adjourned.